one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Welcome to the special meeting tonight. I know we didn't have a regular meeting this month, but we moved the meeting to this time frame to support making sure we had everything ready for a good meeting regarding the budget and a few other things. At this point, any alterations to the agenda? There will be none because it is a special meeting. Citizens' comments regarding agenda items only. Yes. Please state your name, if you would, please.
Ethan Lacrosse.
Thank you.
All right. Good evening. I'm here tonight to voice the opinion, the collective concerns of the student and staff population regarding the newly drafted district-wide prohibition of cell phones. The 2025 cell phone policy, which entails the complete prohibition of cell phones, is more detrimental than beneficial to the integrity of the learning environment at MHS. Students and teachers alike understand that the new cell phone policy does not represent the majority opinion on cellular devices, and that the previously enacted MHS-specific policy was a proper balance between limiting the usage of cell phones during instructional periods and allowing students to use their phones productively. Over the past few weeks, I have taken the liberty of surveying the student and staff opinions in an attempt to gain statistics regarding the upcoming 2025 ban on cell phones. In this survey, you will find the names and signatures of 360 students and staff who have voiced their opinions on how cell phones should be integrated into our classrooms. Attached is also a results sheet, which will contain these statistics, and a written argument, which is what I'm reading today. All right, as I mentioned previously, the collective staff and student bodies at MHS prefer the cell phone policy enacted at the beginning of the school year. A total of 191 students, as well as 31 staff members, which is 64% of the total populations, wish to return to the original cell phone policy, as they know that using cell phones is beneficial to the learning environment. Their reasoning aligns with that listed in my argument. The first is the eradication of teacher discretion. Students are often placed in various situations where simply taking a photograph of a lesson plan, test subject material, or a complex solution to a mathematical problem consequently saves time as opposed to notating it by hand or any other adjacent methods. The usage of cell phones at the teacher's discretion in a classroom to capture these moments takes a matter of seconds, wasting minimal classroom or instructional time as opposed to other methods. Similarly to wasting minimal instruction time, allowing students to utilize their phones in the last 5 minutes of class does not waste any valuable class time, and removing this privilege was nothing short of unnecessary. High school students are approaching the age at which they mature into adulthood. Due to this, we at MHS often have multiple important matters to attend to during the school day. Between responding to calls from potential employers, checking on family emergencies, or requiring information from their parents, the usage of cell phones in the last 5 minutes has zero effect on their learning experience. However, removing this privilege will lead to a great deal of important information being overlooked by students. 301 students, as well as 25 staff members at MHS, believe that the utilization of cell phones in the last 5 minutes of class will allow them to check up on important aspects of their lives without intruding on any instructional time. My final point this evening is that the proposed cell phone prohibition contradicts the very own goals that the Board of Education has set forth for our district. Montville graduates are expected to be communicators, information consumers, problem solvers, and independent learners, skills that are all directly supported by responsible cell phone usage in the classroom. By removing all access to cell phones, we eliminate opportunities for students to develop these essential skills in a controlled educational setting. Students regularly use their devices to research information, collaborate with peers, and organize their academic responsibilities. All skills that align with these expectations of an independent learner and an information consumer. Additionally, many classroom activities incorporate technology to enhance problem-solving skills, allowing students to access digital tools that facilitate deeper engagement with the course material. A blanket ban disregards these benefits and instead enforces a one-size-fits-all approach that fails to acknowledge the reality of modern education and professional environments. Rather than prohibiting cell phones entirely, maintaining the current MHS cell phone policy would better prepare students to navigate complex tasks responsibly in alignment with the district's vision for its graduates. I would like to end my argument by thanking the Board of Education for hearing my voice. I am confident you will consider my argument with great detail and examination of the topic at hand. The newly drafted prohibition of cell phones in their entirety is, in the opinion of the student and staff populations at MHS, more detrimental than beneficial to the learning environment. We know that the previously existing policy is the ideal balance for integrating cell phones into the lives and classrooms at MHS. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other citizens' comments regarding agenda items?
If I were able to just kind of take something I was going to put in my report and just say it now, is that okay?
Yes.
I agree with a lot of what Ethan said. My main point is I think completely banning cell phones is not the answer. I think moderating them certainly is. I think it's important to strike a balance between using them as a useful tool that certainly helps with our educational experience and as a distraction, but completely banning them, and I think this policy that is being voted on is a little restrictive of cell phone use. I'm aware we can obviously still use our phones, but the stipulations of no 5 minutes at the end of class and the no educational use I see as excessive. The last 5 is too insignificant in my opinion to make an impact. Those last 5 minutes of class time I feel like are not very often, I would say very rarely used for instructional time. Usually that's time for the students and the teachers alike to take a break, take a step back before they move on to their next class. So I don't think those 5 minutes are necessarily stealing instructional time that is there. And if you're looking at those 5 minutes for socializing time, I don't think phones are necessarily a threat to that. I feel like it's kind of a misconception that people who are addicted to their phones or use their phones a lot are have trouble making personal connections. And from what I've seen and heard from a lot of people here, that's not necessarily the case. I have plenty of people I know and plenty of friends who have healthy connections that also still use their phone a lot. And I even have people who are very shy and have anxiety and things like that are able to come out of their shell and communicate more effectively through use of their phones. Obviously there's issues with social media, but I think those people that struggle with social anxiety can use it as a certainly helpful tool to strengthen their social skills. Even myself, I'm a pretty outgoing person, but there's times where I've been in classes where I don't have any friends or I just don't necessarily feel the need to talk to anyone. And that's not because I don't have good social skills or I don't have friends or anything, but just because personally I don't feel the need to talk to anybody. And I would rather go on my phone and text someone who I have a much stronger relationship with and build my social skills that way. The stipulation of no educational use, I think, also has many more drawbacks than benefits. I feel like there's so many instances, they're almost uncountable. The AP Computer Science class last year has so much to do with mobile computing. The name of the curriculum that they use is Mobile Computer Science Principles. It all revolves around using your phone and making apps for that, and pretty much all of the major assignments are to build an app. And a lot of there's the ability to run the apps on on the computers we have, but those the emulators that they use on the computers are much more harder to get running, and if they do get running, they're much less smoother and much less easier to use than a phone. And the phone also has the novelty of being able to move it around and show your friends or show your family when you get home, things like that. And I'm pretty sure every single other person in that class opted to use our phones for those reasons. Other examples are taking pictures for your portfolio in ceramics. A lot of, the final project for that class is to build a portfolio, and I know Ms. Acosta has had to change things she's doing around to be able to still accommodate for that assignment. There's a lot of uses in music classes for metronomes, tuning, apps, recording yourself playing and then playing it back to you to see what you sound like or what you look like or whatever. The Chromebooks have a few creative solutions, but they aren't nearly as efficient to use as something like cell phones would be. And I think the bottom line is it forces teachers and students alike to find more creative, but oftentimes less effective and efficient means of doing the work and learning the content, especially ones that have worked for years with teachers who have been able to effectively manage phone use in their classroom. And a sentiment I've heard from a lot of teachers is that phones are here to stay. They're something that are going to be in our everyday lives for a long, long time, if not forever. And if high school is supposed to put us in real-world scenarios, especially in a controlled setting, I think us learning and doing nothing but learning is a restrictive definition of what school should and can be. And I think cell phone use can certainly enhance our educational experience, and policy that may be put in place restricts that worse than policy we already have in place, which I think is good, because teachers those last 5 minutes being up to the discretion of the teachers allows them to keep going if they need to, teach what they need to, but if they don't, they can just let kids use their phones, which I don't think is that much of a drawback. And overall, I think this policy may be a little bit restrictive as compared to what we have now, which I find much more preferable.
Citizens' comments regarding agenda items? Citizens' comments regarding agenda items? I'll ask a third time. Any citizens' comments regarding agenda items? Hearing none, thank you. Letters and communications. I have 6 pieces of communication that I will address when we go to item 7A, where we continue discussion of policy 5131.81, electronic devices. I will read those into the record at the time. The reason why I'm choosing to do that is I feel it's more instrumental, and we have a lot of things in front of that, and I want this to be very fresh what these 6 people have said to the Board of Education. So, that said, Superintendent, preschool.
Preschool, okay. I was asked to put together some information regarding our preschool program. So what you see up on the screen is our current preschool with the enrollment. So you can see that we offer a 4-day-a-week program. The hours are for our morning students from 9 to 11:30, and for our afternoon students from 12:35 to 3:05. You also see that we have 68, potentially 69 students in our preschool program. So one student may have recently moved, so you may see 69 in another slide. But again, our goal is to cap around 12 students. We have certainly been slightly above that, and we have certainly have been below that in the past. I will also say, up until recently, we've always had 2 teachers, and we just moved to 3. This is preschool enrollment since 2020, just to give you an idea. Students enter the school year, and these are numbers based on our October 1st. As you know, that's the magic date to share enrollment numbers with the state. And then the enrollment in June. The reason for the change is because as students become eligible at the age of 3, they enter into the program if they qualify, or as a peer. So for every student that comes in with special needs, we try and have a peer also join. Next year, so again, we're 68 or 69 students in our program, and we're able to service them in the afternoon and morning preschool program. Next year gets a little tricky as we have 27 current students 12 special education students and 15 peers, potentially staying in our program for next year. Additionally, we have around 11 students that are going to be tested, and if half of them qualify, they would need peers. Or 60 to 65%, or 65 to 70% qualify, they would need peers. So we could be starting next year with 38. With that said, we could end based on the percentage over the past at 52 to 62 students in the program. Here are the options that I wanted to share with you that talk about our preschool. So, and I gave some numbers just for you to be able to gauge interest in whether we explore this further. So a current schedule could be 4 days a week, again, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, 10 hours a week. And the cost for paraeducators are roughly about $97,000. Transportation costs about $57,000. Option 2 would be 5 days a week. We would add to our schedule that 5th day. The approximate cost for part-time educators would be about $124,000. That would require us to bring in additional paras so that the current paras we have don't become full-time. However, if we choose to make them full-time, we would then have to offer them insurance. And full-time paras would cost about $158,000, and for 6 of them, they could potentially get insurance for a family, so 6 times $35,000. Transportation costs, 5 days a week with 2 separate runs, would cost about $71,000. And then in option 3 would be 5 days a week, and we do hours 9 to 1. This would be 4 hours and increase our services for our students up to 20 hours a week. This would be a cost of $126,000 plus the insurance for 6 paras. Of course, we could also look at interchanging multiple paras to reduce that cost, but it's difficult to find, which we'll talk about later, some paraeducators. If we look at the numbers we just discussed, we could potentially need to increase teachers another 2. And the salary for teachers can range from step 1, $56,000, up to step 13, which could be about $95,000. We had a very hard time finding a pre-K teacher interested, and we hit the jackpot with the person we found. He's amazing, but it is not an easy, I think she applied the second time we posted it. It is not an easy position to fill. Transportation cost does go down with that model because it's only to and from with transportation. So I do think since this would have budgetary implications, we should probably dive deeper into it if you're interested in following our budget conversation.
Questions for the superintendent on this? I know we've all talked about preschool. No questions?
Does the number 1 include the lunch for students?
Yes, it does.
No other questions?
The preschool teachers now prefer option 2 or 3. What's more popular with them?
I would say I'm going to ask Jill, but I'm going to guess probably option 3. With option 2, there are some complications that would require us to engage in conversations with the teachers and our teachers union because of contractual obligations that every teacher is required to have. It would be cutting into that. Option 2 would more probably also include needing to hire an evaluator or having subs come in to cover. And of course, at any of those, you really want them there with a certified teacher versus a substitute. But I would say they would probably prefer option 3. Jill, do you agree?
I think probably for it.
So are these choices modeled after other school districts, or is this what we, administration thinks is the way to do it, for lack of better words? In other words, are other districts doing it this way with 5 days?
Yes.
They are, okay.
We're doing option 3.
I believe so.
It's all over the place, and actually, other districts, really strangely, right around the time we started this discussion, other districts reached out to us saying, what are you doing? Because we're looking at some different options as well. There's some that are doing very similar to us. It's really all over the place if you look around the area.
I think personally, option 3 is wonderful. It increases the time for our neediest, youngest children. But with that said, it may not be the year in terms of the budget. So I think that's going to be up to you to really think about, because without a doubt, we would need a couple more teachers if it was this year, since we're at 68 students.
Well, isn't it? It's always every year.
Every year.
Right?
I think we all agree it's a critical time in a child's development, correct?
Sure, yes.
I mean, so that's why the board wants to talk about this, because this is the beginning of the future for these children. And
Could you provide us that?
Sure. Yes, absolutely.
I have a question. Do you need more classroom space?
We would need, so where it's housed right now is, you know, a perfect little nook in Oakdale. They would need to find additional space.
Is
So-
that available?
They do have, you do have classrooms available.
We have one other classroom available. It's used by our OTPT. We're kind of tight on space as it is, but we kind of have to think about it and get creative.
Have you done any thought about splitting it between a different elementary? Like we did in Oakdale, splitting some of the children up.
Yeah, we can certainly have conversations about that. We do know some districts do school-based preschool in their own school, so we could look into that. This was just pretty much the basic options to share with you. We could put together a committee and look at options. That would take time to do, whatever the pleasure of the board is.
so the paraeducator's insurance is $35,000
Yeah,
each, right?
per family, yep.
Well, that's if they come in. Yeah.
Right, and as we know, they'll come in any, you know, we'll get some waivers, we'll get some single, we'll get something.
So it's 210 plus the 126, and then you got to add a teacher depending on the step, okay, plus transportation.
Kind of like the idea of splitting it up into 2 schools.
It has to be something to look at. I know what the condition is in Oakdale, because it's, it was specifically designed for a specific number when we did that renovation. And
Maybe
we're
it's-
pushing out to the too crowded area for that wing in Oakdale. We have to.
And it might save us money in transportation. If the money, that Montville goes to Montville and the old field thing. I don't know, you could take a look at that, it might save us money on transportation.
I will say there's been talk of, we're not splitting between 2 schools, but each school having their own preschool. And the only argument against that is there's no team. There's no collaboration with the preschool teachers. We do have a speech therapist that's specifically for the preschool. That person would bounce from school to school. And I will say, Andrea specifically, who's been down there, seeing how they work together, especially with play-based learning this year, is phenomenal. So they would lose their sense of team, but it's absolutely something that's discussed before.
I think in Waterford, Oxford actually has a director, and then Great Neck will have a director. And I think the 2 directors work really nice together. So I don't know, I'm just thinking a model that, okay.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? Good comments, questions, board, thank you. All right. Next item on the agenda, instructional coaches.
presentations on our instructional coaches. So I'd just like to start thinking, get our mind thinking about what our culture of coaching would look like, and this truly kind of encapsulates, if we're not doing it now, where we're going. If we create a culture where every teacher believes they need to improve, not because they are not good enough, but because they can be even better, there's no limit to what we can achieve. So just kind of be thinking about that as we go through presentation. So we're going to start with a little perception versus reality, and I want you to think back to Christmas when we're all getting ready and we get those beautiful pictures in the mail, and we are planning our Christmas dinner, and it's beautiful, and everyone's sitting around the table, and our tree looks gorgeous. And this is what we put out into the world, and this is our perception of Christmas, right? Sometimes it's our reality, but oftentimes it's more like our tree has fallen over, our mother or grandmother or father or whomever is stressed out and trying to make that meal, and our children are screaming and crying and don't want to be anywhere near Santa. So our perception and our reality are often very much different. So that often is very much true with school as well, right? We want classrooms where students are engaged and they are learning, and teachers are in front of them presenting lessons that are equitable and that truly have the best instructional practices, and everyone is ready to learn. But again, behind every classroom that we see like that, there are teachers who are asking for help, who feel great stress, who are carrying loads and loads of work, and who have spent hours and hours of time, of course, getting their classrooms ready for that learning. And so that brings us to thinking about our coaches. And the same is true with our coaches. There's some perceptions and some realities about them as well. And so oftentimes we think that our coaches are just extra administrators, or they are there to critique our teachers and make them do things that they don't want to do. We worry or ask what they're doing all day. We oftentimes think that they are only for the bad teachers, and we're not really sure what impact that they have. So that's many times our perception. But the reality is that coaches are partners with our teachers. They enhance their teaching by modeling and co-teaching shoulder to shoulder with our teachers daily. They are focused on student learning and the outcomes, and they have the time and the ability to dig into that and truly help the teachers focus in that area. They provide varying levels of support to all staff for teachers, and the teachers have some agency in that, but they meet them where they are, just like we meet our students where they are. And coaches' impact are felt far beyond just qualitative measures, such as scores. They're tasked with unifying our teachers and growing their collective efficacy. And if you think back to those pictures, success, that beautiful classroom, that wonderful teacher, it seems like a straight line, but it truly does look more like the picture to the right. And so we use our coaches to try to take away that noise and to help our teachers on a straight line rather than having them go through that picture to the right. That is our hope. So how do we do that? So the purpose of our instructional coaches is to enhance our teaching practices, is to calibrate teaching and learning across our schools, which is really important for you all to remember, and to support professional growth and help with student outcomes. They accomplish this by a myriad of ways. So this slide is not exhaustive, but it does serve to highlight some of the things they do. They model and co-teach and inspire teachers to use new strategies and tools and use best practices. They are side-by-side planning with our teachers, and they are very data-driven. So they are helping our teachers use the data to support our students. They provide roadmaps to effective routines and strategies that are most imperative to student learning. They provide embedded and ongoing professional development to teachers to ensure that there is a cohesive message and uniformity district-wide, which is really the lens of the coach that is invaluable. They see what is happening district-wide, and they can bring that lens into the classroom so that we are providing equitable practices and the best practices across our classrooms. They offer guidance and feedback when teachers need it most, even sometimes faster than our administrators can, because sometimes you see a lesson and your 2-day later feedback is sometimes not even quick enough for teachers, so they work in tandem with our principals. They have firsthand in-depth knowledge of the ins and outs of our programming, They can answer questions for our teachers at the drop of a hat, which is invaluable. And they provide one-on-one personalized learning cycles for teachers. On the day-to-day, they are enhancing our literacy, math, science, writing, and social studies instruction. They support our differentiated instruction for the most diverse learners and learners across all grade levels. They're able to see that through line from K to 5, which oftentimes our classroom teachers can't see, right? They're teaching one grade level and they're focused on the grade level that they are teaching and they know that in and out, but oftentimes there's a much bigger picture. There's the before and the after that grade level that the coaches can bring to the classroom and help them to see with clarity why they're teaching certain things. They build an atmosphere of collaboration, which we know is very important between our teachers. They support the implementation of new curriculum. They improve student performance through targeted planning and data decisions. They promote positive school culture with focus on continuous improvement. And they motivate staff to try new things in classrooms that will impact learning and engagement. So current research says that there are 7 characteristics to effective professional development, and all 7 of these practices or characteristics are things that our coaches are able to incorporate daily. They are content focused. They incorporate active learning, so teachers have agency and choice over some of the things that they want to hone and get better at, as well as things that we have initiative district-wide. They support collaboration, typically job embedded. That is their job, to have job embedded professional development and collaboration. They model and use models in the classroom and in meetings. They provide coaching and expert support. They offer opportunities for feedback and reflection, and it is sustained in duration, which is really important. Oftentimes, our professional development is a one-off. We have people come in, they do it, and we hope that it translates into our classrooms. But our coaches really are there to sustain that learning, and they're there to support them over time. They have quite an impact in our buildings, and it goes far beyond just looking at data and supporting teachers. They really are the glue that brings that cohesion to classrooms in the district and bringing teachers together as a community. They increase attention on student outcomes. They are able to pull out data and bring that to the forefront, right to the teachers, and discuss in the moment teaching strategies that will impact those student outcomes. They promote consistent messaging of high expectations and the use of high quality instructional practices, which is really important. That consistency, again, is hard when you are in just one building or one classroom. It's very hard to see what's happening. You assume what you're doing, everybody else is doing, but that oftentimes is not the case. And often teachers have so many tricks in their toolbox and they're doing so many things. Sometimes it's the coach who helps them to refine that and pull out the most impactful ones. Teachers with access to coaches often have more job satisfaction and more professional growth. And the support from our coaches help reduce burnout and increase teacher retention, which is something that we always want in our district. We put a lot of money into our teachers. We put a lot of training into them, and the worst thing is for us to lose them. So this helps. So these are just a couple of quick slides. I know since 2018, so I went to 2024, I didn't go back to 2018, but I looked at previous slides. We continue to be above the state in students reaching proficiency in both ELA and in math. And so of course this is a collective effort, right? I can't say this is just coaches and or just teachers, but it's a collective effort, and what we're doing is working. So we have to look at all pieces of that, and sometimes taking out one piece is part of the magic that we have happening. So there are some unintended consequences when we take away instructional coaches and things that could happen. We could have an impact on quality teaching. Our teachers could feel isolated, right, and lead to some stagnation, and they will lack the personalized support that they're able to get at this time. This can lead to staff support gaps, so teachers could be struggling they might need targeted feedback or a collaboration partner, and that becomes very difficult when your partner is also teaching, and to find that time. A coach offers that in the moment support. Professional development becomes generic and disconnected. The the coaches are on the ground. They are getting the information from the teachers. What do we need? What is it that we need to bring to them immediately? And then that is brought back to central office, and we make decisions on professional development based on those opportunities. So that's important. Challenges in data analysis. Without coaches, data is less likely to be interpreted effectively, and again, cohesively, that they're looking at it through the right lens and with the same expectations. And teachers may not know how to adjust their instructions based on the data, even if they look at it. This will cause lack of consistency across classrooms, disparities in teaching quality, and a lack of shared best practices, which is what we're trying to build. When we go into classrooms, we want to see the same things happening in terms of the highest level of education, and that's difficult when we're all siloed. Quickly, I do have a vision for the coaching in Montville, and we will continue doing all the things I just spoke about and building their capacity, but also moving to some student-centered coaching cycles with measurable goals based on district goals. Visible learning is very current research, and it's on evidence-based instructional practices that I would like to have the coaches working on. Support teachers in creating standards-based goals for students. Co-plan with teachers using student evidence. Measure the impact of student in teaching. Partner with the building leader. And coaching designed to focus on concrete goals for student learning and the partnering with the teachers on instructional practices. So a real North Star vision of what we are looking for in terms of quality instructional practices and what that looks like K-12. I know our instructional coaches are not K-12, but it will trickle up. And so in closing, our bottom line is that these staff members are essential in improving teaching quality, staff development, and student achievement. They bridge the gap between research and practice right on the ground, and they support our teachers to become more effective educators. The absence of coaches can lead to stagnation in instructional practices, lower morale, and we can miss some opportunities to really support our teachers. The most valuable resource that all teachers have is each other. Without collaboration, our growth is limited to our own perspectives.
Yes, Carol.
This is really interesting to me because I'm still thinking back to some of the presentations we've had about the data that we gather, especially as far as reading, and all these different, from my point of view, moving parts that, one student may be this and another this and so on. And when we saw that, my thought process was, and with what time does that classroom teacher go through all of this data and implement what strategy for which student and so on? And it seemed to me to be a very challenging thing to accomplish. And if I understand what you just presented to us, this is where not the only thing that coaches do, but something that the coaches are really masterful at is taking the data that we invested in gathering and bringing it into the classroom and helping the teacher to be able to actually adjust instruction based on that data so we have better outcomes.
You couldn't have summed it up better. Yes, that is exactly a very good job. You should have done presentation. Yes, of course, that is one part of their job, but that sort of is that straight line with all those squiggles. That is one part of that is exactly right. The time that they have to be able to do that is limited, and to be able to go in and have conversations about that with a targeted, conversation and an outcome is imperative, and that is what our coaches do, and I do with our coaches, and then they bring that, and they do that with the teachers. So yes, 100%.
And the other thing that I was impressed about is I think that it is spot on from my point of view. I mean, I'm a licensed clinical social worker. We do professional development, we go to workshops, we do all those things. Not the same thing that teachers do, but it's kind of similar. And a lot of the time you go and you do the professional development, and then you come back and maybe they thought you were exposed to 6 or 8 things in that block of time. You come back and frankly, I'm lucky if I implement one. Because that's over there and now I'm back in the middle of it. And it seems like the coaches would be an important tool for us as a district, getting more bang for our buck that we're already investing in the PD and having it translate into better outcomes. Is that fair to say?
Very fair to say, that is the intention. And also oftentimes they become our trainers. So we send them or we train them ourselves, and then they are the turnkey trainers. And so that's exactly right. It's not only cost effective, but it's on time, in the classrooms, side by side. And as you said, you could have learned 6 things, but we might come back and pick the 3 best. And then they go out and make sure we're all doing that, as an example. So yes, those are all exactly right.
I have a question for the elementary principal. How many coaches were in your building today working with specifically students, and did you collaborate with the coaches and the teachers?
I had an in-depth conversation with one of our language arts coaches that was in the building. One of the math coaches was in my building, and I know that she attended, I know specifically that she attended a student CIT meeting, which is when we meet with, to discuss a student that may be having some difficulties, and specifically in math. And she attended that, having done some analysis of the data, the math that we use, the benchmarking that we use. She brought that to that data team meeting. I just know that that's one of the things that she did today in my building.
Okay, so she didn't coach the teachers.
I don't know that personally, like what work she did with the teachers today. I just know that specifically that is one thing that she did today.
They're on a set schedule, so, but I have, one of the math coaches right now is working with 3 of my 3rd grade teachers, actually, all 3 of them. So she's really adjusted her schedule to always be there during math, working on behavior management, as well as instruction. I was writing down as Andrea was speaking that I have 15 non-tenured teachers in my building this year. And, you know, that's where they're doing a bulk of their work in my building. Tenured teachers, I would say, historically have not wanted to have coaches in their room as much, but I will say that's changing because I think that they're making a name for themselves and they're requesting. And a lot of times I actually, during one of my evaluations, I will say, gosh, they really need to be working with a coach. I mean, I could work with them, but I try to take a step back and make it not be evaluative. Give them a chance to work with a coach. There's been times I've given them a chance to go work with a coach. I'm coming back in 4 weeks and I want to see, you know, if I've seen some changes. They're more comfortable working with that colleague, not a teacher, but to me.
I don't have much voice, but I had 2 meetings today with our ELA coaches on Zoom, with our district-wide kindergarten teachers and our district-wide first grade teachers, where they went over the new report card, explained to them just what needs to be done and what qualifies for each area of that report card.
And you get to, so you do get to ask them to come in and coach some teachers.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant just like today, like.
Well, today, I would think that they would be in every single day, or every other day coaching a teacher.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I know my LA coach was coaching like Jill said, one of the non-tenured newer special education teachers. She even told me that they were specifically working on like how that CKLA program, like how they could be making modifications to that program for her students. So I didn't know what they were talking about.
I mean, I think it's, coaches can be a huge asset to a district. However, when we were talking about SBOS scores, last time we did the data, our scores are not really going up. So we have to ask ourselves, why? I mean, we cut more than 2 classrooms last year. And we're not cutting people who might be working hard, but we're not giving our bang for the buck for the students. So that's my big concern when we're going to start to look at the budget and where we have to cut, because I will be totally against cutting any classrooms. So I mean, those scores have to go up. We have to show that what they're doing is really working.
Okay, I got a couple things. So I'm not so concerned about the money part of this. I normally am, but in this particular case I'm not. But I got some pointed questions for you, Andrea. How are instructional coaches, deployed daily? Because I'm concerned by the fact that the teachers that have access to them. So how is it determined who gets a coach? How's that done?
That's usually done at the building level. So my philosophy about coaching, which is not that it's just for the neediest teachers, it really should be for everybody. However, oftentimes we have to deploy them where they're needed. So that usually is done at the building level and after data is looked at and anybody who is new. I mean, that is typically how we deploy them first.
So do building principals and teachers ask, or how's that determined who gets a coach? Could be either?
Right?
It's been on, we've tried putting every person on cycles, so everybody goes through a cycle. But then we realized that, some people, there's teachers requesting. At first, no, there were not teachers requesting them. But we've been in this for a while now, and I have some teachers begging to work with them, quite honestly. I have a teacher that's been working with a coach for a good month and a half now, and the coach can't be there every single day. She asked me to sit in her room all day long today and help coach her. And I did that as best I could until I got 4 different calls to go other places. But no, I will say that the teachers right out of college right now, they're not afraid to ask for help. And they really welcome that help. It's been a beautiful thing on my 3rd grade team. All 3 of them are new, and they work together as a team and with the coaches. It's been phenomenal.
I do want to, so we do typically, when we have our new teachers to the district, spend a lot of time with coaches because some of the curriculum is pretty complex, our math program and whatnot. So that is a non-negotiable, that they will be working with the coaches to really have a firm understanding of the curriculum and the support. And then as we invested in our coaches greatly, they've learned that cycle of trust with the teacher. So I'm thrilled to hear Jill say how that has been increasing, because they're really there for support. They can ask questions and not feel somebody's judging them and going back, and they're really there to support them and help them. So they've been asked to go into classrooms to observe them, give them feedback, work with them through modeling, and it's really been amazing to see the growth and the collaboration that's able to happen.
So correct me if I'm wrong, tenure for a teacher is 5 years in Montville Public Schools?
No, it's 4 years anywhere.
4 years,
in the
okay.
state.
All right, stand corrected.
For any new teacher.
For any teacher.
Right.
Okay. So let's talk about professional development, Andrea. Is that like one-off with a particular teacher? What's necessary, the PD that the coach does with the teacher?
So it's a couple things. what I mean by PD is more of their, they do professional development days. So like our days over here, they will present professional development, but then they will carry that through. They can do pieces of staff meetings, they can have PCLCs that's embedded, so their weekly meetings that are, they can have professional development. And yes, in a coaching cycle, you would choose what you're gonna study, and then you would have professional development over 6 or 8 weeks. That is another way. So they can embed, and just day to day, going in, modeling, even that is considered professional development. So it's sort of a continuum, I would say, of professional development that they give, from one-on-one to district-wide.
We have how many coaches
And they have,
in the school district?
what, 2 math and 2 reading at the elementary, and then some part-time at the middle school. 1 math and 1 ELA.
So we have
And then
6
department.
total coaches. Is that enough?
We have 5.5, or we have 6? Did you say part-time?
At the middle school. They're probably 1 half-time math, 1 half-time reading at the middle school, full-time, 2 math, 2 ELA and 2 math at the elementary school. In other districts, so this was gonna speak to being in classrooms every day or being able to, it's tricky when there's not one at, some schools, districts, they have 1 in every school, 1 math, 1 reading, or 1 at least. So that makes it easier because you're in the building every day. Obviously, that's money. We all know that. So when we're talking about how much, you're in a building, they are going between 3 buildings, 2 people between 3 buildings in 1 content area.
Do you feel that's sufficient, or what would be ideal?
I mean,
I'm curious.
ideal pie in the sky is 1 in each building.
1 in each building.
Yes, because yes.
Thank you.
Do teachers get mentors?
Yes.
And how are they different? What are mentors like versus a coach? Like what would a mentor do?
So, all teachers in Montville that are new to Montville get a mentor for 1 year, no matter how long they've been teaching. But really, those mentors are more around acclimating them to the district, to the way we do the content, short term, how to do progress reports, the day-to-day type operation, and technical support. If they're a brand new non-tenured teacher entering Montville, they get a mentor for 2 years because they have to go through TEAM, which is a pretty intensive teacher, so they call it a teacher support model, but it is pretty intensive, and we align them with somebody to support them through that.
I have a kind of a two-part. Do ELA and math teachers who have coaches, are they evaluated on the progress of those coaches? Is it put into their evaluation plans at all?
Are you talking about elementary?
Or, and or middle?
Are the coaches evaluated or the?
No, the teacher, when it comes time for their evaluations, does the fact that they have a coach play into their evaluation?
No, because it comes and goes, whether or not they are working with the instructional coach. A lot of them have in their goals, so as part of their goal plan, they have said that they want to work with coaches. They've made it part of their evaluation plan.
And so for the teachers that don't have coaches, do they have any kind of assistance, like math and ELA?
Yes, because we have cycles, and so like for math specifically, every 6 to 8 weeks or so, they have their PCLC meeting where we're looking at the data, we're talking about those instructional strategies that may, that the coaches are, and the coaches are the facilitators of those meetings, and those are set throughout the year. It's a schedule, and we purposefully set them so that they're offset from our language art ones, which are a little bit more based upon the building-based language consultants. But the coaches attend those as well. The LA coaches attend those as well because they bring to the table the perspective of like what Andrea was talking about, the high yield instructional strategies that they are experts in.
Your phys ed teachers, your science teachers, your computer teachers, they don't have coaches. That's what I'm asking. They don't get any kind of coaching assistance.
Well,
well, your science.
Your science.
Oh, sorry.
All science.
Math and science.
Yes.
Kelly and Michelle, yeah. Sorry. I was hearing special there. We don't have our codes.
Any other questions, comments? Thank you, Ms. All right, Superintendent, let's hear the budget.
Oh, boy, okay. We want to begin by thanking Kathy for her work preparing the budget and answering my 6 million questions. I do want to share that she told me I couldn't ask anymore, and I feel I should be able to still do the best. And I want to thank the administrative team. I think I've reached out to every single administrator sitting over there, and thank you for showing me grace during this very stressful time. I appreciate it, and your support. The situation we are faced with this year is pretty much to what we were faced with last year. We continue to struggle with rising costs that we can't control and significant academic, special education, and mental health needs among our students. We always start off with our vision, and we're really proud of the vision, and we know achievement of this vision is meaningful and important work, which requires high quality, highly trained staff, rich and diverse course and extracurricular offerings, well-maintained facilities, up-to-date IT, safe transportation, nutritious meals, mental and physical health services, responsible fiscal management, and effective leadership to make sure I include everybody to make this vision happen. Education cost share, excess cost, and the adult education entitlement are funds which go directly to the town of Montville. The ECS appropriation is intended to equalize wealth across towns for the purpose of supporting education. Excess cost grant provides partial reimbursement for the unusually high cost of some special education students whose costs are more than 4.5 times higher than our average per pupil cost. The adult education entitlement reimburses the town for about half of the cost of our adult ed program. Last year, the town received $360,440 more from the state for excess costs than they had budgeted, and this money was applied to our 24-25 budget, which you will see on the next slide. This year's town budget includes $450,000 from excess cost funding. By our current estimates, there will be about $275,000 in funds coming to the town which are not budgeted. None of these reimbursements are certain, but this is an idea of the money which the town will receive. Typically, the ECS funding has exceeded the governor's recommendation. We are very appreciative of the increases to our budget over the past 5 years. We understand that the town is also feeling the effects of multiple years of increased costs, and we've done our very best to contain costs for next year. For context, I wanted to share with you the average budget request from superintendents across the state to date is 5.36%, and the average board approved budget is 6.11%. Locally, Westbrook came in at 4.61, Andover 8.7, Basra 1.07, Clinton 6.72, East Haddam 8.14, East Lyme 6.99, Plainfield 5.27, and Region 18 7.99. Before we review our budget for the fiscal year 2026, I'd like to report on progress directly related to the items which the board added to our budget last year. So the increase in full-time special education paraeducators. With the funds allocated last spring, we were able to hire 13 additional full-time paraeducators. We currently have 32 full-time paras and 44 part-time special education paras. We have had less than half as many mid-year resignations as last year at this time. Only 2 of those paras resigned for full-time positions. Additionally, by federal law, paras need to be highly qualified, either through earning college credit or passing what's called the Para-Pro exam. We will hire paras on probationary status who have not met these requirements But if they do not pass the para-pro within 90 days, we cannot retain them. While we still have more vacancies than we would like, we are building a stable workforce, and the benefits are described on the next slide. Based upon the reasons given for resignation at this time, I think most of the remaining part-time paras prefer part-time work. New full-time paras have been assigned to support the needs of our special education students. We have had the opportunity to provide quality and embedded professional development on behavior-specific strategies and data collection. They are definitely making a difference for our students. Current and requested staffing for para-educators. Mohegan has the highest number of para because it houses the RISE program for autistic and medically fragile children across the district. Oakdale's para numbers include the paras who staff the district preschool, and Murphy's numbers include the paras in the district's largest elementary pathways program. As elementary students enter tile, their needs are met in either a special needs or behavioral program. The behavioral program is staffed predominantly with behaviorists rather than paras, which is why the number of paras is so much lower than it is at the elementary level. Tile has 11 full-time behaviorists serving special education students. While paras can be used for regular education remedial work at the elementary level, due to the sophistication of the content, tutors with subject matter expertise are needed at the secondary level. We use the ARC ESSER grant money to fund math paras at the elementary level and try to roll those over into the budget. Due to funding issues and availability of paras, we are not proposing continuing the math para program at the elementary level next year. Coaches will work with classroom teachers to provide tier 2 supports within the classroom. The next para increase next year is 0.5 FTE from the paras we employed this year and 2 FTE above the budget for this year, which never reflected our actual para needs due to the significant overage in the para line the previous year. Tier 2 reading support need is great at the 2 Title I schools, Mohegan and Murphy. There are fewer reading paras at Mohegan than Murphy because a large number of students at Mohegan receive their services through our L tutor. Mohegan has more L tutors than Murphy. The net para increase next year is 0.5 FTE, full-time equivalent, from the paras we employed this year, and 2 FTE above the budget for this year, which never reflected, again, our actual paras needs due to the significant overage. We do not plan for what might come, and that can change at any time. A student can enter our district at any time requiring a 1-to-1 or para support. I know the administrative team all share the same sentiment that our new BCBA and the quality of her work has been amazing. She has been very responsive to student needs and has offered adult support in helping us with our neediest students. She's an active member on IEP teams, offers professional development and de-escalation strategies for our behavioral students, and safety care to help improve our restraint and seclusion numbers. Our behavior plans have led to improved student behavior as a result of her direct involvement. The tutoring program at the secondary level has reaped many benefits for our students. It is important to note that every student who struggles academically is required to be identified for and participate in Tier 2 intervention services. This is a state-mandated process intended to reduce the need for special education services by providing early and timely intervention. At the elementary level, we use the reading paras and reading consultant to provide Tier 2 reading services and the math coaches to help teachers plan for in-class Tier 2 support based upon review of student assessment and data results. At the secondary level, we don't have a similar structure, and the student support centers are the only way to provide essential Tier 2 supports. In the past, we paid for online credit recovery programs to provide Tier 2 support. students were not engaged, the programs were not directed towards specifically identified needs, and our outcomes were not close to the outcomes we are seeing with the student support centers. Title tutors support fewer students than the high school, only because Title has fewer hours, as you can see on the next slide. I was asked to share the cost of the secondary Tier 2 intervention program, and you can see the cost up on the slide. At Title, both tutors are certified educators. The total cost for the program at the secondary level is $159,400. The addition of the special education teacher at the high school has allowed for the average caseload amongst all special education teachers at the high school to be between 12 and 13 students. This allows for a very personalized approach and improved relationship, which results in high academic achievement. It's also allowed for more co-taught sections to be taught throughout the building. And Tier 3 interventions is always a challenge to implement at the secondary level, and we were able to add new learning labs to help our students who need more individualized support by adding this special education teacher. It takes a village to support all our learners, as we heard with our coaches, our teachers, and our administrators. And here is some amazing data from last year. State level for ELA was 63.9, no change from last year. And the high needs were 54.1 with no change from last year. Looking at this, you can see drastic improvement amongst our students, rising way up above state level. And the same is with our math. The state was at 60.2, up 0.5, and math high needs was 49.5, up 1. And you can see here, we reached 70.3 and 65.3 with our special education students. Our past data shows that we know how to improve student outcomes in Montville. However, it continues to take time and resources for us to get there. The first step in our budget process, or budget presentation, is to roll over all existing services based on negotiated wages, increases in costs for benefits and services. It also takes into account the actual students currently enrolled, maintaining class sizes, and taking reductions in staff as warranted to maintain current class sizes and providing required services. This budget keeps supplies level funded and does not add any new programs or services. You have seen this slide before. This is the NESDEC study, and it projects a relatively stable enrollment over the next 10 years. We saw a reduction in students for the current year due to the change in the kindergarten entry age. Only students who turned 5 from January 2024 through August 2024 were eligible for kindergarten due to a change in the state statute. This meant that at least 22 students who would have come to kindergarten in September 2024 were not eligible, and most will be attending next year unless they received a waiver. That one-year decline will continue to work its way through the grade levels over the next 12 years. We expect the numbers of K students to be back to its normal number in fiscal year 26, when a full 12 months of birth dates, students who turn 5 from September 2024 to August 2025 are eligible to attend. The NESDEC study only increased K enrollment from 122 this year to 138 next year. This number may be lower than our actual enrollment, and it will be important to keep K kindergarten class sizes small enough to accommodate a possible underprediction on our part. The study shows enrollment over time fluctuating slightly, with enrollments holding relatively constant at about 1,900 students or slightly below that number. As we staff our schools, it is important to see the grade band in which students are projected to fall. From this slide of NESDEC projections, you can see that elementary school enrollments are very stable over the next 4 years. with a net change of only 4 students from our current enrollment. Based upon the specific grade levels in which these students fall, I do think we can reduce one elementary section by not replacing an anticipated retirement, which I'll explain in a future slide. Middle school enrollment is projected to decrease by about 50 students. Our numbers, however, show a decline of 59 students next year, as this year's very large grade 8 moves to the high school. As a result, I am proposing the reduction of 2 teachers, which I will explain more fully in the upcoming slide. High school enrollment increases next year with the entry of the large grade 8 group, but then decreases the following year. I do believe we can start to prepare for that reduction in students by not replacing 1.5 teachers who are resigning. Our district enrollment numbers are based on February 1, 2025 enrollment data. This table shows not only those 1,909 students in grades K through 12 classrooms. Additionally, we have 69 students in preschool, 6 students at the Transition Academy, along with 172 students in outplacements, magnet, and other choice schools for whom we are financially responsible. Of the students selecting choice schools this year, 31 of them receive special education services for which we must also pay for. The decline in K-12 students for next year is at tile, and we will be proposing staff reductions in response to that decline. The number of students who will attend technical schools is not known at this time. Grade 8 students who applied are just receiving acceptance letters now and will be deciding where they will enroll. As we build the budget, we project the number of grade 8 students who will attend tech school by using the same percentage of students that chose to attend this year. Homeschool students' numbers have fallen back to pre-pandemic levels. This is a roll-up at the elementary level, again using our February 1st, 2025 enrollment numbers. Kindergarten enrollment is an estimate based on NASDAQ projection of the 138 kindergarten students based upon the birth rate. We have assigned kindergarten students to school based upon current proportions at each school. We know kindergarten numbers will increase from the current kindergarten numbers due to the change in the birth date I already spoke about. While NASDAQ factored that into their study, we are purposefully keeping several of the K classes small to accommodate additional students. We use current enrollment data to project grades 1 through 12 class sizes. We move teachers between grade levels as necessary to maintain desired class sizes. Based upon the enrollment, I am very comfortable recommending that we not replace one elementary teacher who is projected to retire. I know there was some board concern about this process last year when we talked about it, but I can report that this year, using the same process, we have only 3 grades with class sizes at 20 or more. 2 schools have grade 5 classes at 22, and one of those schools has grade 2 classes at 20. We will, of course, monitor for students that leave the district as well as those that enter in case we need to modify. As has been past practice, I will reduce number of students transitioning into grade 9 based upon the percent of the grade 9 students who do choose to go to technical schools or Ledyard BOAD after completing grade 8. And last year that was 27%. Net decrease at tile is significant, and I propose some staff reduction there in response. We can comfortably reduce 1 math teacher, as I will show in a future slide. We can also reduce 1 exploratory teacher. Both of these reductions can be accomplished by not replacing projected retirees. Is my reduce 1 world language teacher at the high school. I am also planning to reduce the high school science by 5 FTE. Though high school numbers are increasing slightly next year, they are projected to decline the following year. And Rob and I have reviewed numbers and believe the additional 15 students spread across 4 grade levels can be accommodated while taking advantage of the ability to reduce teaching staff through retirement rather than layoffs. Palmer freshman number is an estimated based on the needs of current title students. It is likely that this number will increase and transition students decrease from 6 to 4. I wanted to reshare this slide to show you the expected reduction at the high school in 26-27, which is why we are proactively reducing 1.5 FTEs where we can take advantage of retirement, which is always preferable to laying off teachers after only 1 year of employment. Middle school certified staff chart. This slide shows the impact on class size of reducing 1 FTE from the core area teaching staff. Of course, when we run the schedule, classes are not evenly distributed, and trying to keep class sizes at 20 ensures that we can actually probably keep them around 24. There are more math sections than other core areas because some grade 7 students qualify for pre-algebra and some grade 8 students qualify for algebra 1. For the past several years, we have offered some reading classes which are very small based upon students' needs for specific reading interventions. The table shows average class sizes, but our tier 2 and 3 students are in smaller groups and our tier 1 students are in larger class sizes than those that are shown. Middle school elective classes are shown here with the reduction of 1 teacher. Music class sizes are larger because band and chorus can accommodate more than 25 students. And band, we typically get a full complement of instruments, so we only run 1 section per grade level. Transition Academy, there are currently 6 students at Transition Academy. 3 students will age out at the end of this year, and 1 student will be entering from the high school. This leaves us with a very small group at Transition Academy next year. Students are identified for transition services by grade 9, so we can accurately project our future numbers. And you can see that class sizes are expected to increase the following year. In this budget, I proposed the reduction of 1 job coach at the Transition Academy. We could offer 1 vacant behaviorist position elsewhere in the district until those transition numbers increase, and hopefully they will want to return back to the Transition Academy. The majority of our budget increase is due to cost for staff. This increase is driven by 2 factors. First is the increase in wages based upon negotiated contracts. Next year's cost for certified staff will be lower than projected due to the proposed reductions of 4.5 teachers, 1 at elementary level, 2 at tile, and 1.5 at the high school. Certified staff salaries are projected to increase by $279,650 and account for 13.76% of the budget increase. Support staff, which is all but monitors, tutors, and paraeducators, salary increase makes up 12.56% of the increase. This includes a 13% increase for nurses so that we get them closer to a competitive salary. We have had a huge turnover with our nursing staff due to our much lower non-competitive salaries compared to our neighboring school districts. Monitors make up 0.43%. Tutors have a decrease due to staffing challenges at the beginning of the year, and paraeducators make up 5.51% of this increase. Our health insurance increases are projected at about 6.7%, and health insurance alone accounts for 17% of the budget increase. We are hopeful these costs will decrease, but based upon our conversations with the broker, at this time we are not comfortable budgeting less. We have received MERS rates for next year, and they will increase 0.03% from 16.68% this year to 16.71% next year. The increase in the MERS pension is primarily due to the wage increase for MERS employees, including the nurses, the new nurse we had to hire this year for a student, the cost of the additional full-time paraeducators, and the PCDA. Liability insurance and workers' compensation, the 9% increase is to our actual cost for this year, and since we budgeted for more than our actual cost, this accounts for only a 1.88% of the budget increase. Electricity, 5.02% of the budget increase. This is primarily distribution fees, and we are working with our consultants to see if we can reduce these rates. Instructional equipment, slightly over 5% of the budget increase. This includes web filter, firewall contract, copier lease, Microsoft and Adobe software, laptop leases, computers, server warranty and replacement, and virus protection. Increased costs are based on votes received. Our Barracuda email archive costs increased by $6,400 as we are entering a new 5-year contract, and the VMware, which allows for cloud computing, increased by $5,800 as the company changed ownership and the new owner increased our rates. A large contributor to this increase is for our server warranty. The cost has increased $31,000 due to the age of our server and limited remaining hardware support as the servers are pushing towards their end of life. They were purchased 4.5 years ago and projected to last 7 to 8 years, but the cost of hardware support have increased greatly. The warranty is for 5 years. We have also budgeted for the replacement of the high school technology education computers at a cost of $72,000 due to the lack of compatibility of existing computers with Adobe Creative Suite and SolidWorks. If we defer this replacement, we would not be able to use software necessary to the courses, and we would also not receive security updates through Microsoft, which exposes the network to vulnerabilities. New iPads needed for elementary school one-to-one program and new Chromebooks for the Tile one-to-one program were purchased through the ARP ESSER grant, which will not be available in the future. Magnet school tuition makes up 11.18% of our budget increase. We are required to cover 58% of the costs of tuition for regular education students who choose to attend magnet and GOAD schools. Based on legislation passed last year, the state pays 42% of the tuition. Costs are based on actual students enrolled at each school. We rolled up students up 1 year and entered new students using the same number of students who entered the starting grade this year. We budgeted for 137 tuition students this year and actually had 140 students, an increase from 68 to 72 in elementary, increase from 21 to 24 at middle, and a decrease from 48 to 44 at the high school. Despite this increase in actual student numbers, there was a decrease in tuition paid versus tuition budgeted, since the high school tuition is much more costly than the elementary tuition. We budgeted $373,485 for tuition, and projected payments will be $358,552. Based on the 149 students predicted for fiscal year 2026, we have budgeted $391,480 for next year, which accounts for part of the increase in this object. The tuition for special education students at learn schools who require one-to-one para support is the source of this extremely large increase in this object from budgeted to actual expense. We have 4 new students with this placement, and the cost for each is over $44,000. Special education services at the BOAG school are also included in this object, as well as costs for any student educated in another public school. For example, a DCF placed student in another district who is Montville's Nexus just came to us Thursday of last week. Supplies across the district have again been level funded, and there's an overall savings in supplies due to the decrease in rates for gas, diesel, and heating oil. We have not locked in rates yet, but these are the current rates which Kathy received. In many areas, we have level funded requests, and we know that the same money next year will not buy us the supplies we have purchased in the past. As you may remember, during the 21-22 and 22-23 school years, we had a large number of unbudgeted placements, which occurred during the school year and caused us to end the years over budgeted in tuition and transportation objects, which made it necessary for us to use the 2% non-lapsing account. 2 years ago, we tried to address this issue by increasing our special education teachers. As you can see, the numbers have remained much more consistent and predictable since that time. Increases are based upon actual student placement and the projected tuition costs. Obviously, paying for supports here is more cost effective than paying for outplacements. Though we are sending fewer students to outplacements, the students we cannot educate in district are more difficult students, and their placements are much more expensive. Individual student cost with transportation and tuition averages over $120,000. I was asked to provide information on our Title I grant. Our total allocation from Title I is $350,943. This covers the full salaries of 2 of our reading teachers and partial salaries of our 2 math coaches and 1 of our ELA coaches. It also includes homeless transportation and supplies for reading. I was asked to share the cost of our district coaches with you, and you can see here the cost, salary, and budget with the benefits and the totals. All top step teacher salaries are approximately $97,000. Cost of benefits range from $14,198 to $35,423, depending on the healthcare selection that our educators choose. Salaries for coaches represents 2.08% of salaries for certified staff, and the health insurance for coaches represent 2.05% of costs for health insurance. These coaches will lead instructional quality for over 1,300 students next year, instructional leadership at every level. Here it is. Our rollover maintenance budget is $47,446,502. This is a 4.49% increase over last year's budget. Many items in the budget are estimate at this time based upon the best numbers Kathy came back. We know we will have more information regarding health insurance and MERS, fuel costs, which are not locked in at this time. We hope to firm up more actual costs within the next month or 2, and we will adjust the budget accordingly. And, of course, we hope the numbers will go down. I understand that we all want to provide our children with an excellent education without a large percent increase, and our team worked hard to be financially responsible and look for ways to reduce costs throughout this budget. And it is important to note that the board's budget for 24-25 is comprised of the town's initial appropriation and the additional funds allocated to the board from the additional excess cost revenue, which had not been booked in the town's revenue. Additionally, the Board of Education budget is offset by state payments directly to the town for the education cost share and grant and excess costs. Now for recommendations that I will mention for future consideration. I am adding a few items so that you hear them, but I recognize that this may not be the year. Moving to a cloud-based financial system would allow our new business manager, once our beloved Kathy leaves, to learn the job using the new system rather than learning the one system we have now and switching in a couple of years, as we're not sure the server-based program will be supported much longer. The efficiencies are majorly better than the current system. You know, in time, we're going to need to look at adding a multilingual teacher for the district. Our ML students coming up become more complex and more difficult to service, and an additional ML teacher to support our teachers. The athletic director requested a freshman volleyball coach to allow for more students to be able to participate on the team, and the behaviorist would be a nice addition to support our Pathways program. I chose not to put the dollar allocations on here so that you can just hear, listen, and know what we're going to be suggesting in the future, but understand this may not be the time. We are going to pass out the budget books to you now. As Jen and Andrea pass them out to you, I'm just going to remind you that in this, in your binder is budget code explanations to help you navigate through the different pages. One of the very best places that I think you'll find valuable is the object summary explanation. It really talks about the driving changes that are happening to the budget this year and explains all items in detail. You'll see the object summary report, which just gives you an individual of allocated dollar amounts. Objects and budget report by function. For example, you will see certified staff show up in our regular program, guidance services, and principal's offices, to name a few. This is just a quick reference guide for you to see where they show up in all different areas. And then budget detail by function. And finally, I would say our next meeting is set for Tuesday, March 4th. We will answer questions and discuss changes to this operating budget and capital plan that we discussed as well. If you have questions, and you can email me ahead of time, that will allow us to gather in-depth information for you and ensure that the right people are here to answer your questions. Thank you very much.
Now that the superintendent has diffused the question part, very nice presentation, thank you very much. I think it's very responsible, thoughtful, and I would encourage the board members to please do as she asked, send the questions in ahead of time so her and her staff can look at these questions, and we'll be prepared for next Tuesday to address in a more detailed level. I just want to comment real quick about the budget. So, a couple things I think are important to remember when we talk about a budget, and I'll make this very quick, is that the town also has been quite generous with the school district in terms of particularly capital improvements such as a football field, a track. They've it's about over $2 million in bonding. There's about $15.5 million in bonding for HVAC that the town people voted in a referendum to support. They've been quite good with us in terms of capital improvements and improvements that are needed in the school to make sure that we provide an education that's worthy of our students. It's also important to recognize that the town also has multiple issues to deal with themselves. They have their own contracts, they have their own animal control facility, they have multiple things, paving roads, all these things that, from my former day as a counselor, are very important that the municipality also has to address when they develop their budget also. So I just want everybody to make sure that we understand that even though we're separate entities, we do the very best to work with the town to make sure that the citizens get what they want, and I feel it's a nice relationship that we've established over the years. It is impressive a community this small can ante up the capital improvements that we're doing. It's not to be taken lightly. It really isn't. I know there's reimbursement from the state. But it's a big deal. We're a small community doing some major capital improvements, so I just wanted to say it before we move on. Anybody have any other comments? All right. Next item, approval of the consent calendar.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none? Thank you. All right, old business, continued discussion, policy 5131.81, electronic devices. So we received some communication from students, staff. I'm going to read these into the record. It might take a little bit of time, so please bear with me. These individuals' names are not important on who sent these. It's their thoughts and their feelings, and these people took some time to put these thoughts together. So names are not important, just for the record, okay? All right, unless their name comes up in the narrative, and then of course you're going to know who it is. That's not a problem either. Okay, dear members of the Board of Education, my name is Kelly Brooks, and I'm a 24-year veteran of Montville High School. While I have been an English teacher for 24 years, I have also been teaching the Personal Interest Project, PIP course at Montville High School for the last 5 years. It is as the PIP teacher specifically that I am writing to you today. As a PIP teacher, I have serious concerns about the board's proposed changes to the cell phone policy at Montville High School and the impact of those changes to my PIP students. PIP is a unique, organic learning opportunity that is open to upperclassmen, whereby they design, create, research, and present a project of their choosing based on personal interest. Since the birth of this course at Montville High School, students have utilized their cell phones to complete their projects. As part of the PIP process, all students must create and post a 30 to 90 second video trailer for their project. The vast majority of students have used their cell phones to record or edit these trailers. Also, there are certain apps that are best accessed on a mobile device that students have used to learn American Sign Language, create musical beats for an original album, and even access YouTube videos for independent learning about their chosen topic. Recently, a student's entire project was learning how to use the Camera Tools app on their iPhone to take and edit photos as works of art. I also have a student in my class this semester who's planning on designing a photography project using her phone's camera because she does not have access to another camera. These are just a few examples of the many ways PIP students have needed to use their cell phones within the classroom environment. While I understand the board's concern related to cell phones, I also understand that we are living in a technological world whether or not we like it or not. Whether we like it or not, excuse me. As a classroom teacher, I firmly believe that part of my job is to be a role model to students and help them learn to appropriately navigate technology and its place in our lives. I accept this part of my job enthusiastically and support the use of cell phones as a learning tool. A complete and total ban of cell phones as proposed by the BOE would significantly impact the projects and the learning of PIP students. Therefore, I humbly request that you reconsider your current proposal and allow classroom teachers to use their professional discretion in the parameters of Montville High School's current cell phone policy. I appreciate your time, consideration, and support of our students as well as their learning. Respectfully. Dear members of the Board of Education, I appreciate efforts to create a cell phone policy to address concerns across the district. In the past, we have encountered many distracted students who attempt to use phones for personal use during class time. Our policy this year, created by the Montville High School administration, went a long way to solve many of these issues. I am a 20-year teacher here in Montville, and the MHS STEM department chair. I am ready to advocate for intentional use of cell phones in the classroom as valuable academic tools. This applies to both science and math classes. In particular, I would like to address the academic use of phones in our AP Environmental APES course, Environmental Science course. In our AP Environmental Science class, students use their phones as powerful tools for hands-on learning and real-world application of environmental concepts. Some of the most impactful ways we utilize mobile technology include digital environmental documentation. Students use phones to take photographs and videos of the environment in and around the campus. This visual documentation allows them to analyze environmental conditions, compare ecosystems, and create meaningful projects that reflect real-world environmental concerns. Species identification with iNaturalist. The iNaturalist app, developed by the California Academy of Sciences and National Geographic, allows students to identify local species. This fosters student engagement with biodiversity, ecosystem analysis, and citizen science initiatives. Measuring noise pollution using specialized apps. Students measure noise levels around the campus to assess environmental noise pollution. This hands-on activity enables students to analyze the impact of human activity on the soundscape and apply concepts of decibel levels, human health effects, and urban planning solutions. These activities are directly aligned with the AP Environmental Science curriculum and promote inquiry-based scientific literacy and environmental awareness. By integrating mobile technology, we equip students with 21st century skills, encourage responsible technology use, and connect classroom learning to real-world environmental challenges. I respectfully request that the board consider the benefits of allowing cell phones in the classroom for academic purposes. Rather than viewing them solely as distractions, we can establish clear guidelines that maximize their potential as educational tools. The use of mobile technology in the classroom fosters engagement, inquiry, and critical thinking, skills that are essential for students preparing for higher education and careers in STEM fields. Thank you for your time and consideration. I welcome any opportunity to discuss how we can work together to ensure that mobile technology used effectively and responsibly to enhance student learning. Dear members of the Board of Education, my name is Heather Matha. I hope I said that correctly. Did I say it correctly?
Matthew.
Matthew, thank you. I'm a science teacher who has been teaching biology at Montville High School for 17 years, and I'm writing to you out of concern for the proposed change to the cell phone policy at Montville High School. I understand the board's perspective that cell phone usage in the class may be detrimental to learning. However, as an educator at the high school, I view cell phones as a learning tool. This past year, my ECE biology students have used their phones to record creative cell organelle projects and to photograph cell images through the microscope. I wish the BOE would reconsider the total ban of cell phone use in the classroom and allow teachers at the high school the freedom to use their professional discretion with this technological tool. As an educator of young adults, I believe it is my responsibility to model and guide students in the appropriate use of cell phones in school, work, and life, not to simply ban them. Thank you for all you do for the students of Montville and for taking the time to read this letter. Okay. Dear members of the Board of Education, my name is Ted Richmond and I reside at 51 Pheasant Run in Oakdale. I am the chairperson of both the English and Social Studies Department. I'm also a parent of an 11th grader at Montville High School. Let me start by saying that I believe that many of your concerns about cell phone use of our schools are well-founded. They can be frustrating and distracting. They can also be used in inappropriate and damaging ways that can harm students, their families, and the community. However, we must recognize that they are also tools that are, regardless of how we feel personally, a fundamental necessity in our jobs and in our lives. We have passed the point that they are optional luxuries. As an educator, I believe it is my mandate to help prepare my students for their lives after high school. Regardless of their chosen path, those lives will require the appropriate use of smartphone technology. My issue with the impending BOE policy is not with the exclusion of cell phones in the class. In fact, I think the cell phone pouches are a tremendous and welcome change in our building. My problem is with the board's insistence that teachers and administrators do not have the ability or the professionalism to understand when students' cell phones are necessary to the day's lesson. For example, I teach an ECE class that focuses on academic writing and multimodal presentation. In our ECE classes, students are UConn students and teachers are adjunct UConn professors. There's no academic distinction between what is happening in our classrooms and what is happening on the store's campus. Students can and do complete most of the research, writing, and presentation development with their school-issued laptops. However, there are rare instances when they must access their phones to complete or augment an assignment to the best of their abilities. Whether their expression requires a photo essay, an edited video journal, an editing or presenting app, or simple code for two-factor authentication for the research database, there are times when the cell phones, when the use of their phones, is academic, appropriate, and necessary. As you deliberate on your decision, I simply ask that you allow for narrow academic usage for students under teacher supervision. I applaud your efforts to make our schools and our community a safer place for our students. Two more. to tell you, these are good. People took time to write these. The Montville Board of Education. My name is Eric Richmond, and I am an 11th grader, currently student, 11th grade student currently attending Montville High School. I have some concerns regarding the efficacy of your new cell phone policy, which, as you know, restricts the use of cell phones for the duration of the class period, no matter what. No phone usage for personal uses for any educational purpose, nothing. While I partially agree with your phone policy, I believe it has evolved into an impediment to the ideal learning experience. Cell phones are distracting. That is something that can be proved and has been proved time and time again. I want to establish that I agree with your cell phone pouch policy. Students should not be given access to their phones for personal, recreational purposes during the class period. I understand where cell phones become a frustrating concept for teachers. It is hard to keep your students engaged when they have the world's supply of entertainment and interruption at their disposal. Your current policy, however, has taken a mile, to put it in one way. As I understand it, your current policy does not allow the use of cell phones for any potential educational purpose. While cell phones are seldom used in the classroom thanks to school supply Chromebooks, to imply that they cannot be used in educational scenarios short-sighted and uninformed. I'm currently enrolled in the AP Computer Science Principles class offered at Montville High School. And one of the most important elements of that class is creating apps, maybe a map, a drawing app, or a quiz app, all used to develop our knowledge of the aspects of coding. The easiest way to test these apps is through an app on our phones. Click a button on your computer, open your app on your phone, scan the QR code, it takes a matter of seconds. Since the district has moved to the zero tolerance policy, we students have to open up an emulator on our computers, which runs quite slowly. It takes several minutes just to get up and running. It is inefficient and tough to navigate in comparison to the convenience of the app on our cell phones. You have banned using phones for the last 5 minutes of all of our class periods. So it's very clear that every class minute is the highest priority to you. Why not let us use our phones for this academic purpose to save these precious minutes? You claim in policy, BOE policy 5131.81, that cellular telephones and other wireless communication devices can be either a valuable learning tool or a source of disruption in the learning environment. If this is true, then what were you trying to solve with the implementation of your current policy? If your policy before was implemented the way you envisioned, then every student is putting their phones in the pouches before class and getting them at the end of class. What use do you have for cutting them off entirely from their position as a valuable learning tool? Why is it then that you cannot make exceptions for the obvious educational benefits provided by cell phones in certain classes? Blanket statements such as no phones during class ever is objectively an inefficient way to regulate cell phone usage as an educational tool. Sure, the majority of classes do not require a cell phone, but there are those few classes that need them to run smoothly. Some of the classes that require these phones to run well are offered classes that intend to provide students with early college experience. In ECE classes, you have high school students taking college classes and teachers who are qualified college professors. College students, as you may know, have access to their phones at all times for academic purposes. So how can you possibly claim that you're not putting ECE students at a disadvantage? However minor as a result of this policy. Is this really in correspondence with your bylaws outlined in policy 9005 alpha, that your greatest concern is the educational welfare of students? If you make the same blanket claim that phones act only as a source of disruption in the learning environment in the context of these classes, then that is an insult to the academic integrity of your finest students and the professionalism of your finest teachers. You claim that the students who voluntarily take college classes in high school are incapable of using their phones as academic tools, and you claim that your professors are incapable of regulating phones at your own discretion while preserving the academic integrity of their class is quite frankly offensive. I'm not fighting for phones in classrooms so students can hold their phones behind their Chromebook screens and scroll Instagram or TikTok during class. I'm fighting for phone usage in classrooms because I truly believe that the educational value that phones can bring to the classroom is unmatched, and an outright ban does more harm than good. Sure, most classes don't need phones, but I urge you to learn about the exceptions and how detrimental your policy is to them. Dear board members, my name is Sabria Wynn. I'm a 17-year-old senior at Montville High School and have gone through this school through the various changes the past 4 years. Recently, before my senior privilege was approved, I had 2 study halls back to back, which equates to around 4 hours. I'm a student athlete, captain of the cheer team with a part-time job as a Starbucks barista. I decided I would use this time to get scholarship materials in order, such as FAFSA, transcript, and request for letters of recommendation. This, however, was proven to be futile because I was unable to access my FAFSA information due to me being unable to access my phone for the two-step verification process. I was also unable to provide important personal information on the scholarship forms because I was unable to text my parents for the answers. Unable to advance in the scholarship process, I was forced to sit in the 4-hour study hall, feeling dejected and unproductive. I am incredibly busy outside of school with working at least 12 hours a week and 8 hours plus sports events. So these allotted 4 hours would help me tremendous progress in getting financial aid for my plans of pursuing higher education. Similarly, in my art class, I've been unable to take quality images of my artwork to establish my portfolios, which are an incredible chunk of our final grade. There have been many obstacles this new phone policy has injected in my life. As a senior in high school, I often have my schedule changes and have to be flexible. These changes, which I'm unable to communicate with my parents in important times of need. I have grabbed my phone from my pocket, received daunting messages from my manager and recently about my great-grandmother falling. Or my mother texted me if I wanted to come see her, which I was unable to respond. Well, I do understand the phone addiction that plagues our generation, as I was once a victim and deleted most of my social media apps in order to become more productive. I believe seeing this amazing technology solely as a villain is wrong. There's so many positive ways that you can incorporate phone use in your culture, and I argue it would be actually be a teachable moment that would benefit all of us in adulthood, in our adulthood, excuse me. Who else would teach us the websites and apps that help make life easier for students, like Calculator 84 for students who can't afford a graphing calculator? Who else would teach us that our phones will be with us our whole lives, and instead of avoiding them, you can use them productively in addition to recreationally? I learned from my teacher that we could use our Notes app to scan a document the same way that a copy machine would, which was incredible and saved me so much time uploading work from long distance. I recognize your efforts to decrease the negative effects of cellular devices on our generation. However, that is a fact that is unwavering. Phones are not going anywhere. In fact, technology is advancing so quickly, we may have meta technology classes normalized in a decade. It might happen. Change is scary, but instead of neglecting phones completely, it would be much more beneficial to teach students how they can live with them simultaneously and still succeed. A student who has regulated access to their phone during school will go home and be more productive than a student who will attempt to make up for lost time for being sucked up in as soon as the school bell rings. I bring my concerns to you as someone who is thinking of the overall development of students in the future. I'm graduating soon, and these policies will not affect me. However, I have a special lens as a student, which I'm hoping will get through to teaching students that phones aren't the enemy, and letting teachers have the discretion to decide how they can be helpful will only help students figure out more ways that technology can aid in their lives instead of being detrimental to it. So that's a lot of talking, thank you for listening, but this was important. We haven't changed the policy, number one. Number two, the board does not run day-to-day operations. Professionalism exhibited by teachers is done by superintendent and her staff. Our concern about professionalism is just generic. We expect you to be professional. We don't question your professionalism. That's up to the superintendent and her staff. I just want to be clear on that because they're good comments. They're really good comments. And it's not that phones are evil, right? But we're trying to find a way to make phones somewhat equitable in the school system, right? If we're going to do it, everybody gets a phone. I'm going to say quickly, and I'll open up this for discussion because that's the item on the agenda. If a student has to use their phone as a tool in a class offered by this school, I got a problem with that. I got a problem with that because we have a $45 million budget, soon to be $47 million. We should be providing that tool. I see no reason. I just have a problem with that. A student is expected to use their own asset. It's one thing to use a pencil or pen, maybe your own personal calculator. But so I'm going to open up for discussion. My personal feeling is, I think there's a way to address this. Again, we have not changed the policy. However, we all have very deep concerns about cell phones. And thank you to all of you who wrote these to us and taking the time and being considerate. I do appreciate it on behalf of the board. So I open it up for discussion.
I have a quick question.
Yes.
In that last letter, the student said that she could use the phone for a certain kind of calculator. Do we provide those real expensive calculators to every student that needs it? Because I remember when my children were here, we could buy the calculators for them. So, I mean, if that's true, then we should be buying those very expensive calculators.
I get this, we do get those calculators.
You do?
Yes, the TI-84s.
Cool. All right, Dr. Grove, I know you got something you want to say.
The policy committee has been meeting for, seems like forever, but it's really been a couple of months, talking about this particular topic. And we're taking information. I've contacted other districts to find out their use of cell phone devices. And a majority of the ones I've talked to are a complete ban. We don't want a complete ban. That's not what we're asking for here. What we have voted on in the policy committee is that cell phones will not be used the last 5 minutes of a course. They still can be used during changing of classes. They still can be used during lunchroom time, just not classroom work. Now, we do have a suggested alternative amendment, so to speak, to this particular policy. Is that what I'm reading now? What we are contemplating, we haven't decided yet. In the event student Chromebooks do not meet the needs of a lesson or assignment, teachers who would like to request special permission for students to use their cell phones during class for the purpose of completing a lesson or assignment must request written permission from the building administrator 48 hours prior to such a lesson. Permission requests will be submitted using the attached form. Approval from the building administrator must be provided in writing prior to the requested date. So that's where we stand. No decisions have been made.
I will tell you, I feel somewhat ignorant, not knowing that we use cell phones at this level at this school. 1 second, please. And I don't say that lightly because I don't like to be uninformed. But I feel in this case, I really didn't realize the extent of where we're using these. Now, obviously, it's predominantly in college and AP classes. That's not a secret here, nor is that a problem. You can speak when I'm done. Okay? Thank you. But I wonder how many people and staff really know we're doing this in the class outside of these actual teachers. The building administrators actually know this is actually happening in their classes. I'd like to know that, only because I think the board should know that this should have been brought to our attention months ago. Hey, I got this class, this class, this class, and this class, and so-and-so and so-and-so uses their phone, and we wouldn't be sitting here tonight on a budget night trying to address something that does need to be addressed. And it's only a discussion, but it frustrates me a little bit, because this should have been brought to our attention months ago.
Well, I presented a majority of what they spoke to, I
Yeah.
think back in September, October, to this board.
You detailed in this level?
Not to that level, but I made the mobile apps course, the
You did
music
say
course.
that. Yep.
I, to my knowledge, to the time I had, I did bring up a lot of these points.
These are good arguments. I mean, they're good arguments.
I'll just say one thing.
Yeah.
These are things we have in this building. We have the digital cameras. We can dust them off, but they just don't keep up with our cell phones. So do we have to use our cell phones? No, but the software and the things that we have just don't keep up. And kids, fortunately, update their cell phones every couple of years, and they bring these things to our building. So why not take advantage? Do we have to use them? No, but it's like I said, we have digital cameras. I think they're back in that closet there. I can dust them all off, but I don't know the quality of what we're going to get, and it's going to match up with what the kids, have on their person.
I agree with you on technology. I think the expectation that the student has to bring their own tool bothers me. Again, we have a $47 million budget we're proposing. Why on earth do they have to use their own phones? I mean, I kind of have a problem with this. And I might be way off base.
I don't believe they have to. I just believe it enhances their experience and their.
I don't argue anything. I don't argue that.
And they have them anyways. I think that's the thing. They don't have to have them. We don't have to use them, but it only makes the product more efficient and just makes it better than not having them.
Let me rephrase it. I think the board should be supplying these tools. The students shouldn't have to use their phones. Yes, Carol?
I think that one of the things, out of some of the concerns that were raised in the letters, but also the people who generously shared their concerns, and I'm trying to wrap my head around it because I'm old and this is not stuff I really get. But it does seem to me that some of this is a back and forth thing. In other words, a student might be doing certain things with their phone in one of these AP classes, like working on developing a portfolio or generating, some images, wow, through a microscope, who knew? But at the same time, they might very well take their personal device home, just as they take their Chromebook home, and kind of use it there too. At the high school level, actual homework happens, sort of, from what I understand. And I'm really quite struck with how much utility seems to be available for the students beyond what really works with the devices that we're supplying because of this emulation process, which seems, for lack of a better term, kind of clunky and slow. Not that, not like years slow, but still. I was taken with like saving time in the classroom. So I thought that was interesting.
Tim?
I mean, technology changes every day and hard to keep up with. And they keep changing. They keep coming up with more and more developments with the cell phone. I mean, we do have the pouches. I mean, I can see where teachers can use the discretion when, like in the AP classes, allowing them, since they're already there, using the pouches, they get them back, in between classes. They can use them at lunchtime, but allowing teacher discretion.
Yes, I'm looking right at you, Don.
They're all valid points. I'm just wondering how many issues, though, you've had from administration in the office with students who are misusing them. And I think that always puts us at risk as well. So
I would think and Ken could talk probably a little bit better to this than me, but any of the major misusages of cell phones are occurring outside of school that come into the building, the big issues. Now, we do have the standard following our policy. If they're using them during any time when they're not allowed to in class, they get written up. It's one of our non-negotiables. We address it. Parents have been real cooperative. Even some of our toughest parents have been real cooperative with the policy that we put out in August. And they come and get them, and they say, well, I'll do my best to talk with Johnny so he doesn't, violate the policy again in the future. But again, any of our real major ones, I actually just had one that I got at the end of the day Friday that carried all through the weekend and had to deal with it in school today that had nothing to do with anything between the operational hours of our building.
I think our job is to look at the pros and cons of everything.
Mm-hmm.
And then try to decide, what's going to be best for the students.
Bonnie?
I just wanted to thank Ethan and also Adam for their hard work and comments, and everyone who wrote a letter. It was a lot of very valuable information for us, because this is a very difficult, policy to work on, because it's very complex, because we know the problems that cell phones bring, and yet we have a lot of examples of how important the technology is that we need to use. And it's been very hard to get it right, and we're still working on it. And I am, as Will said, I'm really disappointed that we don't have the technology available to students on a computer that you have on your cell phone. As someone, you say you're going to need your cell phone in life, but when you go to work, based on my experience at work, I was supplied a computer that was, all of the applications were supplied to you. And I know that's a very expensive thing, but at the same time, if this is what our students need to, to work towards their future, then I think we should be investing in better technology and provide that for the students in a, what we're worried about is the controlled environment. Is the cell phone, you have access to a lot of distractions. For the work itself, I just would like to consider looking into, technologies that we can improve so that we have a tool that the students can use.
Yes, Lisa.
So just feeding off of Bonnie, so it sounds like laptops are better than Chromebooks, right, Nick? As far as putting an app on, being able to develop an app. Is that a better source of technology? Kind of mirrors a cell phone?
Yes and no. There's lots of different layers. So what the students have in these devices, we have to follow the data privacy law of the state of Connecticut. And a lot of these apps that the students are using, they're unaware of the data that's being collected behind the scenes. It's going into their phones, it's yanking out things they've done, the activities, everything. And we have to find a balance, and we also have to follow the state law of Connecticut for the data privacy piece. So by using phones and different apps, even on Chromebooks, laptops, if it's Windows or Mac, there's different things that we have to look at. Is there apps that we can get on the Chromebook that can do some of these things? Well, there could be. I don't know. Some of these that I'm hearing tonight are new to me. I was unaware of some of the things that were happening in the classroom with phones. I think this is bringing a spotlight on different technology that's being used, but I haven't had a request of, is there a microscope app using the camera on the Chromebook? When you get into laptops, you get into how do we tie those down so that for cybersecurity purposes, because the Chrome OS is different and it's easier to do that piece. But now we have the Windows part, and it's easier with the Windows operating system. You're always constantly caring about people going in, and then we have to look at, all right, now we have to buy an EDR solution for virus and malware and ransomware to cover those. So it's really up to the board of how much are you willing to pay per device per student. And I know that we have some students that bring in their own laptops because they think the Chromebooks are slow. And I want to be honest with you, if they have a MacBook Pro that costs $1,200 versus our 300 and change Chromebook, that MacBook is going to be faster and more powerful. And we're doing what we believe will get the job done to educate the students here in Montville at a reasonable price for the taxpayers. But if the board wants to, and the taxpayers want us to look at higher end technology, we can definitely do that. Just give me the direction, and we can get into that.
Well, I'm glad you're here tonight, because we were able to listen to those letters and learn something as well. We did. So we were in these meetings for about 4 months, discussing, and I give a lot of credit to Tina because she called a lot of people about this. And a lot of people came back and basically said, well, we no longer have cell phones in schools. And that's not what we're looking for. Really, it just kind of upset us that cell phones were being used in the class. Now, during those sessions, we didn't know about these instances of academic use. We didn't know. Maybe Rob touched on that. I won't say that because Rob might have touched on that. But we feel, well, at least the policy committee felt, that during the classroom, like this young man said, well, the last 5 minutes, we need downtime. Teacher needs some downtime. No, in my opinion, you can have some downtime when you walk out of the classroom, when you walk into the next class. Or maybe you can have some downtime at lunch. Or maybe you can have some downtime after school. Because when you go to work for a living, the only downtime I ever got was when I had my lunch break. But having said that, because we are teaching these kids to go out into the real world, I don't think that's a big ask, but I do understand that at times they are needed for academics. And it does seem, from what I heard, that it's a small segment of our district. It's the AP kids. It's a small segment of kids. Not almost everybody, but a small segment of kids. And that's fine. And one segment of the population I haven't heard once was parents. Not one parent has called me. Not one parent has come to the meeting. Not one parent said to me, it's a bad idea. And parents mean a lot to me in this district and in this community. So I am still would like to see us not have them in a classroom, but maybe consider an amendment where if the teacher needs them for certain classes, then they can use them. I think that's a pretty balanced approach, and that's my opinion.
Bob? You're the last person.
Okay. Hearing everything, we've all read the letters, and been doing this a long time. I've talked to some of my friends from all around in different areas, and literally it's an entire spectrum. What Will's was saying about what if a student needs a device for a class, but they don't have it, or their family can't afford it. These aren't cheap. And I own a beautiful infinity camera. I haven't touched it in like 15 years. And I've got a lot of different, but because this takes almost as good a picture as that camera does. So digging them out, that might be an answer. I'm really leaning really hard to what Dr. Groth-Tina said. Her proposal sounds like really the best option we have right now. Really, the policy that's in place right now, the administration, we pay you guys the big bucks to make up that stuff for us and to give us, the information and recommendations. But also, listening to some of those letters, almost every one of the teachers that wrote a letter are on a top tier of teachers in the district. So we're paying them almost $100,000 a year. We can trust them to make up their mind on what they need to have happen. It's not, at some point we have to trust the people who we have put in that position. And with Tina's idea, it's simple enough for them to ask permission from Rob, administration, and he fills it out, and they're good to go, and they've got permission to do what they need to use it in class. Other than that, no, they don't need to have it in class. That's simple. Allow the discretion of the people we're paying to do the job and to run their classroom. Hope I make a little sense.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
This 7A is discussion, it was designed to make a motion to approve the amended version of our policy, and then we could have made a motion to amend that, but it wasn't to sit again another month on the agenda. It was brought out of policy to actually be voted on, and I'm not quite sure, are we doing that tonight?
No, and the reason why we're not is because these communications came to us.
That's no excuse.
Well,
Those came to us a long time ago, a month ago, within a month.
well,
I mean, so now we're going to wait a whole nother month to do it? So you mean if I make a motion to amend policy, it's not going to go through? That's not Robert's rules. We took it out of policy, we put it on last month, we brought it to this month to vote on. I don't understand why
we
we're
didn't bring
not
it to vote
voting
on.
on. Huh?
we didn't bring it to vote on. It's clear we didn't bring it to vote
Well,
on.
it's clear the agenda didn't to do that. That's fine, okay.
We have 3 more meetings in the month of March. I'm fine with moving this at a fast track. Everybody's spoken. I'm fine moving this at fast track. I wanted to get this read into the minutes tonight. I wanted to hear discussion, and I'm going to ask for one group left. You'll get to talk at the end. I know you want to speak, and I appreciate that. I want to hear if any administrators have anything to say before I close out this item for the evening.
The only brief thing is, I appreciate the amendment, but it's, I guess, why the 48 hours? I'm going to use Heather Matthew as an example. If I'm walking past her class, and I've been here 3 years, and I know if I'm walking past, and let's say my first year and a half in, and if cell phones are out, that's because her students are using them for academic reasons. I can also say that about Lee Clifford, Ted Richmond, and Kelly Brooks, who are sitting here tonight. If I'm missing a staff member, I'm sorry, Nick Civilian, okay? But I don't need Heather Matthews to submit something 48 hours, because when I walk by, if they're using it for academic reasons, and I do fully heartedly trust that when she is done with her students, the cell phone is going to go back in the pouch. If, and I emphasize the word if, there was something else that took place, and if it was brought to my attention, I am more than confident that I could call Heather down to my office, have a very professional conversation. Heather, here's what I heard. Ken, here's what happened, and we can move forward with that. So I mean, I'm not a fan of the 48 hours because I trust the teachers in this building. And if they cannot be trusted, that's our job to have those very frank conversations. That could turn to a letter into the file.
Can I add, because I'm in the middle school, cell phones are the misuse of cell phones is a problem at the middle school. So I do think there's a clear delineation between how the high school is using them appropriately versus the middle school piece. So, we have been, I guess, disappointed in the misuse of cell phones that we've seen an uptick this year. So, where our teachers don't need them for academic purposes, the amount of students that have these cell phones are alarming, to be honest, for 6th and 7th graders. So, I mean, we're fighting that battle with just cell phones put away. What Rob and the students and staff, what they talked about is very appropriate, really, really well said. I don't think that aligns really with what's happening with the middle school, just for the record. We will continue to get cell phones kind of out of the picture on the middle school because our students are misusing them. They're not using them for academic purposes.
I just want to add one piece. The cameras that Principal Rob Alves mentioned that are sitting collecting dust, I'm 99% sure they're not going to work with the Chromebooks because they're too old. The drivers are not going to work. They won't work on Windows 8, Windows 10 machines. So if the board was decided to say we're not going to use cell phones, we're going to use those cameras are not going to work. Then the school district's going to have to buy cameras that would work with the Chromebooks if they needed high-end cameras. Because there is a web camera on the Chromebook, but they're not going to be 4K pictures that some of the kids would need.
So I think there's some homework that Mrs. Terry brought up. You answered quite nicely. What's it going to cost? What's it going to cost to mitigate? Can you give us a number? Not tonight, but I mean, can you figure it out? Is it possible to get our technology to the level where it should be? If I'm listening to all the background noise, our Chromebooks really aren't where they're supposed to be. And that's my own assumption, which is not to look at this, but it sounds like our Chromebooks are just weak. and don't get the job done for a certain segment of our population.
The Chromebooks we have are used across the state at the same level, so it's gonna be, I'm gonna have to make some calls to other school districts, IT directors, and see, hey, this is what came up in our report. I mean, how do you guys handle this? Do you guys have special high-end powerful laptops for certain projects, or what's going on? And I'll be more than happy to share my findings.
Well, I'll just give one more
Yes.
quick analogy. And
Yeah.
Vicki, I'm going to apologize because she critiques me for making sport analogies all the time. Okay, so, but I'm going to make a quick one. I've coached baseball and softball for many, many years. And when I first started, the team used to buy team bats. And we try to buy the, middle of the road, something the team could afford, buy 3 or 4 of them so the team can use them for batting practice for games, and so on and so forth. Kids started bringing their own bats that far exceeded the bats that we would buy. And the bats we bought from the school just sat in a little corner, collected dust, were never used, and the kids used the bats that they brought with them, that they bought that because they were superior. So the same thing goes with cell phones. We have the old cameras in the closet, we have the Chromebooks, but if the kids already have the higher quality devices, why wouldn't we let them use them? That's just, again, Vicki, that's my last sport analogy of the year.
Of the year?
Maybe for the month.
For the month. When we get to comments at the end, I'm going to finish my agenda. Both of you will have a chance to speak. Thank you. All right. Any further discussion?
I just want to,
Yes.
I think we're all on the right track here. I think the technology, for sure, it will help us to determine what we need to, if it's iPads that can take apps, that would be great. Technology's got to work. Rob, I appreciate you saying that tools can be used that are already here for in the classroom. I appreciate you saying that. But we just got to look around and see what it is we need to do so that we don't have to rely on students using their phones. I know they like to use them and I know they're convenient, but there is a small liability to using your phones on this property. If something happens, if they break, if they get a virus, whatever the case may be, we're still on the hook for it because they're being used on the property. So we just want to look into it and find more information about what we can do to increase, at least increase our technology.
Thank you. All right. Committee and liaison reports. Policy, Dr. Grove?
We had a meeting this evening, and it really was to talk about updating certain policies, such as non-lapsing educational fund, Family and Medical Leave Act, student discipline, paraprofessionals, and therapy and service dog policies. So the superintendent and assistant superintendent are going to update these policies for us, and we will review them at the next meeting.
Thank you. Montville Education Foundation? Okay, thank you. Learn?
Nothing bad.
Monthly Youth Service Bureau?
No meeting, they need to meet again on the 13th of March. We'll start back up.
Thank you. You're first tonight.
So today I'm sorry. For my report, I decided to talk about 2 things that in the school that I've been very passionate about and that I'm very much involved in, being the academic program and the music program at MHS, because I think those are both very strong programs, and especially this past semester and this school year so far, I think they've been really positive. Starting specifically, I'm on the indoor girls track team, and we won our ACC championship this year. And I think track, the sport in general, it's a very it asks a lot of you mentally and physically, and I just wanted to shed light on how important it was, as a sport community, how strong both the boys and the girls team was together, and how they both lifted each other up throughout the season. And I think that's what really made a good season. I think at MHS, we really do have a great sports community with all of our sports, winter sports specifically, like not just girls indoor track won ECCs, but our cheerleaders won their ECC tournament. Wrestling won, they went to states and we had students who won there. And we have our both boys and girls basketball have worked incredibly hard this season too. And the boys basketball team is going to be playing at Mohegan Sun for the ECC championship, which I think is really exciting and just really proves like how much these teams really work and how hard they work, and just it shows everything that they put into their sports, and I think it's really great. It makes me very prideful in our school. And then also for our music program, one of the exciting things I'm looking forward to is that specifically choir, we're going to be having a collaboration with Tile and their choir, and we're going to be kind of running like a little bit of a workshop where our choir will learn songs that the Tile choir is learning, and then once we come together, we'll go into little breakout rooms with like each section, like alto, soprano, stuff like that, and it's like a good opportunity to build community and like have high schoolers with a little bit more experience work with the younger students and like teach them like how things would be different here at the high school. And I think it's positive because it shows them, like kids who want to continue to take choir into high school, it shows them what a good experience of choir could look like, and it kind of gives a glimpse of the type of work that will be expected and like how they will have to adapt, and which I think is a really good thing, and I'm definitely excited for that. And also in our choir program we have a thing called team time, where in our specific classrooms, like I'm in concert choir for example, and so we get to collaborate with other students in the room, and you just have to create any project that's musical, which I think is a really fun project because it not only teaches students how to work together, but it also just like it's fun, and it's also like you learn how to do things with music. Like you can do you can create your own songs, like you can make presentations on music history. I think that is such a beautiful thing about that program, and I think that it deserves a lot more recognition. So I think we have a very, very strong music program. Thank you.
Thank you. That's very nice.
I'll start off by saying I definitely agree with Gianna's sentiment about our sports team. I know the tennis team, but particularly me and Danny, who's actually in the audience right now, have been super, super pumped about the season coming up. We were practicing in like 30-degree weather on the courts for the past couple of months, and I didn't even care because I was so excited. The courts have been like an inspiration, such a driving force behind us, like being super pumped for the season. We are beyond excited to be playing on those new courts and finally having home matches. I'm just like so excited for this season. National Honor Society's February project, we made Valentines and delivered them to the Senior Center. And 2 weeks ago we had our Winter Spirit Week, and we capped it off with a pep rally, which resulted in the senior class winning.
I'm glad you like those tennis courts. And I tell you what, that was one of the best investments the school has made in many years. I'm really glad you like it, because that was way, way overdue. Okay, thank you. Principals?
I'll speak for the elementary schools. I'm just going to say that I think we're turning a corner and coming out of the mass sickness plague, as we said, that has been hitting staff and students. Really, that's really what our time's been consumed with in the past month, I would say. And you can tell from Mr. K. He got it too. But really, honestly, it's been a day-to-day, like, do we have enough staff? There was a day I had 55 kids out. I think we're starting to turn the corner. That's for Brad.
I'll just share, last time when we had our Board of Ed meeting in January, I shared that we had gotten a $1,000 grant from the Mohegan Tribe. We've had the tribe come in and do staff PD on the January 30th PD day, They came in, 2 other presenters came in from the tribe and presented to the students, which was terrific. The students were really engaged with those 2 presenters, and then this Friday we have our field trip out to the museum. There's been a lot of excitement around that grant and what it's been offered to students.
Just quick, the tile chorus, we invaded the Excel Center Saturday night, and they performed the national anthem for the Wolfpack game. They were phenomenal, did a great job. Our tile girls basketball won their first playoff game, and our boys basketball won tonight their first playoff game, so they're having a great season. 7th grade dance Friday night, if anyone wants a chaperone. See the true heart of middle school. 7th grade dance would be it, so you guys are more than welcome. 6 o'clock at the cafeteria. We'd love to have you guys. So, and then our MEF awarded us a grant with our Best Buddies program, which, if you know, Best Buddies is a life skills students and non-disabled peer program, after-school program. It's a national program. We're kind of doing it in-house, but we're hosting Best Buddies Dance with multiple middle schools in the area. They're going to bring their students to Tile in April, and we're going to have an after-school dance with that group, so it's pretty exciting. You might want to chaperone that one. That one will be nicer to watch and less eventful than 7th grade.
Perfect. Real quick at the high school, as Adam and Tiana said, Montville athletics are thriving in both the team sports and individual accomplishments. They really pretty much spoke to the heart of it. I just want to give a shout out to our athletic boosters. They have purchased 40 tickets to be distributed amongst students for Wednesday's game at Mohegan Sun. We're going to run a lottery system beginning tomorrow and award 40 students free admission to the the boosters are going to award 40 students a free admission to the game at Mohegan Sun, which is at 4 p.m. on Wednesday. And then lastly, kind of an academic standpoint, Ken and I are about, and department chairs are about halfway through the new teacher evaluation system that we started this year, and we've been very pleased with the observations that we've witnessed inside the classrooms, and really more specifically, there's been a lot of them, but our mid-year meetings have just had great conversations about teaching and learning, and I really believe we're kind of moving this ship in the right direction.
Thank you very much. All right, informational items. Next scheduled meeting is next Tuesday, March 4th. That will be laser focused on the budget in case anybody's curious. All right, report on district operating plan. Ms. Flynn?
Oh, yes. All right, so very briefly, once again, we had a robust professional development day on January 30th. Some of the highlights were Tile conducted their first choice PD called Tile Academy, which allowed teachers to choose sessions that best support their individual learning needs. These sessions were run by a variety of staff members, which further supports our vision of building capacity and learning from each other. At the elementary levels, we continue to engage in purposeful play with Karen Gray, but we also use the expertise of our math coaches to work with grades 1 through 5 as how to best incorporate the tenets of purposeful play in their classrooms as a way to support executive functioning. A quick report on chronically absent students, which asked for a report on. As of December 30th, we had a range in the schools from between 9.3% of students to 15.7% of students who were chronically absent, and this was down from the September numbers in that range. In September, the range was 10.2 to 18.5, so that was a nice drop. The high school had a 13.6% chronically absentee rate, and pre-K had 13.2. And our end of year chronic absenteeism rate for June 2024, so last June, which we'll now monitor for the year, was 14.18. So those were the numbers, the current numbers that we have.
Thank you. Superintendent?
Yes. I couldn't remember the last time that we specifically shared some of our demographics, so I thought as I was doing the budget report, I would also share with you some demographics that you might find interesting. So in terms of our student population, we have a 58% white student population, 17% Hispanic or Latino, 12% 2 or more races, 6% Asian, 4.6% Black or African American, and 0.7% American Indian. We have 4.8% multilingual learners. 48% of our students in district receive free or reduced lunch. And 21.4% of our students qualify for special education. I just thought it would be something to share with you. And then I think I talked a real lot tonight.
Thank you. Okay, citizens' comments. You guys pick which goes first. You should go first. Young lady, go first.
Thank you. I'd like to start off that I myself am an art and a music student here. I am part of the jazz band. I used to be part of the concert band. I'm part of the rock performance band, and I do songwriting here at Montville High School. I am a student photographer for the school, and I used to do art classes during my sophomore year, and I am part of the National Art Honor Society as president. I would like to say that on behalf of the art students, the art teacher herself, Ms. DaCosta, came up to me and told me when I was talking to her during National Art Honor Society that she herself had to purchase the tablet in order to provide access to the students to be able to take photos for her projects that she is having these students do, because she is not able to have them use their cellular device. So she is using her own money. You spoke about having to provide those students with your own, like, say, a tablet or a better laptop. But now teachers are feeling that they themselves need to provide for these types of devices so they can have these students do what the projects are telling them to do. But that shouldn't be something that's like, oh, I have to ask for permission to do that. It should be something that the students are just able to do. It should be something that is just accessed. It's access for them. And then on behalf of the music students, Cushing, we do in songwriting, we use iPads for our music classes. For jazz band, we have been using phones to basically listen to music and then translate it through ear. We've been doing that also in band. We use our cellular devices, and now with our band on YouTube, we haven't been able to use YouTube anymore on the Chromebooks. We haven't been able to use any like networking basically on there. And so now we don't have no access to YouTube. So we have no ability to listen to those things on those computers, but now we are relying on our phones to be able to listen to those things that we are asked to do for band, for rock, for songwriting, especially in rock. I am part of one of the 4 bands in rock performance. We do our own music. We make our own set lists, we create our own songs, and we have to do that by ear. And we also are now required to use our phones almost because we have no access to YouTube. That is not something I'm asking you to change, because that is something that would put us at reliability because of the fact that you guys took away YouTube because of the change in, how do I say this? Basically, we have no YouTube because it imposes the danger of them releasing our data, our privacy. So we don't want that to endanger us. So we use our phones in order to learn our music, to make our set list, because we don't have access to that anymore. And so that's what I'm telling to you, that I'm informing you that that is an issue as well for rock performance students, for band students, for jazz. And then as a photography student, I think I am the only student here that does photos for Montville High School. I send in photos, I provide a lot of photos. Those are not cheap, those are very expensive. I do caution to stay wary of the cost of that. The cost of cameras does not go down nowadays. It only goes up. We have more cellular devices. Those cost money of cameras as well. So I'm worried that if we do lean towards the side of buying new cameras, that will only be damaging to our costs we have more priorities. I believe that the students have more priorities and other places that we could put that money towards, not necessarily improving what the school has provided, but just allowing us to use what has already been provided to us. And the Chromebooks do supplement some of that, but peers among themselves can help one another. We encourage that at Montville High School. We encourage fellowship. We encourage our peers. We encourage that use of help. So I do caution you to stay away from the idea of purchasing more but instead allowing more access for our students. Because photography is an art, as all the rest of these points are, but it's also that these arts are allowed for any student. Whether it's a level 3 freshman, whether it's a level 3 senior, whether it's a AP junior, or a middle level sophomore, any of those students can take any of those classes. Any of them can do photography. It is not just the AP students. It is not just the ECU students. I do caution that for you. Thank you.
I wanted to jump off of that. Regarding the use or trying to upgrade Chromebooks or any technology to be made accessible to us, it's not possible to meet cell phones. You have, I looked around at the liaisons and your personal computer in front of you, there's no rear-facing camera on that. I've never heard of a rear-facing camera on a computer, which removes the ability to take a photo of what's in front of you really easily. So now you have to either spin the computer around or take a picture in front of it, and that really ruins the quality of the image. It ruins everything, especially for art students who need good quality images. And if you're using a computer for a photography application, most students have to sign into this computer, which regardless of how you upgrade it, is going to take time out of class. It's going to take time out of instructional time. You have to open up this camera application, return the computer around, take the photo, and then upload it to files, and then you have to put those files into your applications when you can just take out your phone with permission, take a picture, and you're done. And regarding to the fact of having to provide that technology for students, you don't. 99% of students have a cell phone. I guarantee you every student you ask has a cell phone. Every high schooler has one. And if they don't, on the very rare chances they don't, they have a friend who can take the picture for them. So it'll save instructional time, and you don't need to purchase anything for that. That's all.
I just have a point of clarity. One of your letters was from a parent who also happens to be one of our esteemed educators in district. So one
Same parent, okay.
Yes, one of those letters was from her. Mhm.
Yes.
Hi, I just wanted to say, I know we're going to be adjourning quickly, so I just wanted to leave you all with a few thoughts, if I may. I've been visiting the policy meetings and the past couple of Board of Ed meetings recently, and I've been listening. I've been gathering information. I just wanted to leave you with these thoughts. Almost 4 years ago, at the request of Lori Palin, I sat in this room during the summer with colleagues to reimagine what Montville Public Schools stand for. What were the skills and dispositions that we valued most that would also best prepare our students for the rapidly changing future? After several days of discussion, reflection, and review, we agreed upon the things that are listed on the top of tonight's agendas. Quote, our graduates are communicators, information consumers, problem solvers, and independent learners. They exhibit empathy, perseverance, inclusivity, and self-awareness, end quote. These skills and dispositions were then brought to individual schools for approval, and finally to the Board of Ed for its approval, all of which was enthusiastically given. Yet tonight we find ourselves having a discussion about cell phone use in the high school specifically. The policy that our administrative team crafted after discussions and input from their stakeholders is being threatened by a group who, according to the Montville Public School website, claims to be, quote, truly committed to involvement by everyone in the school district. Students, teachers, administrators, staff, and parents. Yet this same group failed to include students, teachers, or parents in their conversation around cell phones. As a classroom teacher, I find it incredibly frustrating and disappointing when I am being held accountable for modeling, teaching, and assessing my students against these skills and dispositions, and the elected body that is the public face of Montville Public Schools isn't demonstrating these same skills and dispositions. The way the board's issue with the cell phone policy has been handled feels very hypocritical and full of double standards. Teachers were not openly invited to the table for conversation. Students were not asked for their inputs, and parents were not consulted in any organized or collaborative way. We are the people that this policy will affect and impact on a daily basis. Yet our voices were not once considered in any meaningful, direct way. That doesn't seem very inclusive or empathetic, in my personal opinion. Parents, students, and teachers were not invited to brainstorm any possible solutions to the perceived issue of cell phone use. Again, in my opinion, this shows a lack of problem-solving ability. Perhaps if you had asked the other stakeholders in this scenario, you would have discovered that this isn't a new topic for us. Cell phones is an issue that's been brought up for years, and it's something that we had already come up with a solution that the majority of stakeholders supported. Instead, the discussions were had by an exclusive group, none of whom are directly impacted by the policy, with incredibly poor public communication and notice. And honestly, it feels like you would have preferred that we never got involved in the conversation at all. As a district, how can we look at our students every day with a straight face and hold them accountable to skills and dispositions that we as adults do not or cannot demonstrate? What kind of message and example are we setting for them? More importantly, what message does that send to the community? How can we possibly still tout on our town borders that we are proud of our schools when the leaders of those schools, and more specifically the elected public faces of those schools, don't demonstrate the values and skills they espouse so readily? The question I leave you is, are we just proud of our schools and not proud of ourselves? Because I'm not sure that the two of those things can be separate. Thank you, I appreciate your time. I'm hoping that this conversation can maybe continue and we can come to a little bit more of a mutual understanding about what's actually going on in the walls of Montville High School. Thank you.
Any other comments? Any other comments? I'll ask one more time. Any other comments? Hearing none, thank you. Board member remarks. We'll start with you, Bonnie, please. No comment? Lisa?
All right, well, we had 4 months of public meetings open to the public. That's all I'll say to that. And just one concern that I have was
Yes.
that I would like to request that we do not cancel our regular meetings. I think they're very important to keep. We vote on those dates. Jen LeMay sends us those dates. Everybody plans. They do the Montville Marvels. They send letters. They pick the children. It's an important day, and everybody attends. And to cancel a regular meeting because maybe one agenda item isn't ready, to me that's not acceptable. I would love to just keep our regular meetings, and if there's 1 or 2 things on our regular meeting that's not ready, I would like to see us have a special instead of canceling, because now you have to ask everybody if they can attend. And, you know, that was difficult for me to find a day to attend. So I'm just requesting that we keep
It's
our
easy as
regular.
you've asked all night.
I haven't really asked you anything.
No, that's easy.
But
Regular
thank
meeting,
you.
2 special meetings necessary.
Okay.
Bonnie? Or Carol, excuse me.
I have nothing further.
Bob?
Nothing further.
Donna?
I would just like to clarify that I remember very clearly Mr. Alex, he was speaking about all the technology used in the classroom for learning, and that the only piece you agreed to think about or work about was the 5-minute after class was up, or just before class was over, because it was a hill you did not want to die on. And I love your analogy about baseball bats, because do you know how expensive those baseball bats are?
Really?
And Diane, you did a great job. Thank you. And Andrea, your presentation of the coaches was great. Thanks.
I'm
Jim?
good. I'm good.
I'm good.
You're good? I'm just going to say thank you very much. Robust conversation. Nice job, Superintendent, on your budget tonight. Look forward to the meeting next week. Thank you for people who attended tonight. Thank you for your comments. And future agenda items. We know what's happening next Tuesday. I think that unless the board wants something different, I think we should stay laser focused on the budget next Tuesday. Okay? All right. That said, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Meeting adjourned. Thank you very much.